If you have had $50 million right now, what would you do with it?
Jennifer Hayes stood behind the counter of the small diner, staring at the billionaire who just asked her the strangest question she'd ever heard. Her notepad fell from her hand and clattered onto the floor, but she didn't bend to pick it up. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Because Richard Montgomery, whose face she'd seen on magazine covers and business news shows, whose net worth was estimated at $7 billion, had just looked her straight in the eye and asked, "If you had $50 million right now, what would you do with it?" It wasn't the question itself that shocked Jennifer. It was what came after. Because when she'd stammered out an answer, thinking he was joking or testing her somehow, Richard had pulled out his phone, made a call, and within 30 seconds, Jennifer's own phone buzzed with a bank notification. $50 million had just been deposited into her account. $50 million, from a man she'd just met, a man whose coffee she'd just served. A man who was now standing up, putting on his expensive coat, and saying the words that would change everything. "You have 1 year. Show me what you can do with it. If you succeed, you keep it all, and I'll give you another $50 million. If you fail, you give back what's left and walk away. But Jennifer, this isn't charity. This is an investment. In you. Don't let me down." Then he walked out, leaving Jennifer standing in the empty diner at 6 in the morning, staring at her phone, watching her bank account balance climb from $342 to $50,342. Her hands started shaking so badly she had to sit down. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought she might pass out, and one thought kept repeating in her mind, over and over. What just happened? What have I done? And why me? But to understand why Richard Montgomery walked into that diner and changed Jennifer Hayes' life forever, we need to go back. Back 3 days. Back to when Richard was sitting in his Manhattan office, staring at a medical report that said he had 6 months to live. Maybe less. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, already spread to his liver. The doctors had been very clear. There was no cure. No treatment that would save him. He could do chemotherapy to buy a few extra weeks, but it would make him sick and miserable and wouldn't change the outcome. Richard Montgomery, one of the richest men in America, was going to die before his next birthday. Richard was 48 years old. He'd spent his entire adult life building his fortune. Had started with nothing, worked his way up from poverty, created a real estate empire that spanned the globe. He owned hotels, office buildings, shopping centers, apartment complexes in every major city. He'd achieved everything he'd ever wanted, everything except happiness, everything except meaning, everything except someone to share it with. Richard had never married, never had children, had been so focused on making money that he'd never made time for relationships. His parents were dead. His brother hadn't spoken to him in 15 years after a business disagreement. He had employees, business partners, people who worked for him, but no real friends, no one who cared about him as a person rather than as a source of money or opportunity. And now he was dying, and all his billions couldn't save him, couldn't buy him more time, couldn't give him what he really wanted, which was a chance to go back and do things differently, to focus on people instead of profits, to build relationships instead of buildings, to matter to someone, anyone, in a way that had nothing to do with his bank account. Richard had spent 2 days after getting his diagnosis sitting in his penthouse, looking out over the city, thinking about his life, about his legacy, about what he'd leave behind. And he realized with crushing certainty that he'd leave nothing that mattered. His company would be sold off. His buildings would have new owners. His money would go to charities he'd barely researched. In 50 years, maybe 100, no one would remember Richard Montgomery. He'd be forgotten, like he'd never existed at all. That's when Richard made a decision. A crazy, impulsive, probably stupid decision. But it was his decision, and he was going to follow through with it, no matter what anyone said. He was going to give his money away. Not to charities, not to organizations, but to individual people, regular people, people who were struggling, people who had potential but lacked opportunity, people who could do something meaningful with the resources he'd wasted on acquiring more money he didn't need. But Richard didn't want to just hand out cash randomly, didn't want to be some eccentric billionaire making it rain on strangers. He wanted to find people who deserved it, people who had good hearts, good ideas, good intentions. People who would use the money wisely and make a real difference in the world. So Richard did something he'd never done before. He left his office, left his penthouse, left the world of boardrooms and private jets and five-star restaurants. And he went looking for regular people living regular lives. Went to places he'd never been: diners, laundromats, public parks, corner stores. Places where everyday people worked, everyday jobs, trying to make ends meet, dreaming of better futures they'd probably never achieve. For 3 days, Richard had been moving through New York City like a ghost, watching people, listening to conversations, trying to understand what regular life looked like, trying to find someone worthy of his test. Someone who would get his money and do something good with it. He'd seen a lot of people, had a lot of conversations, had coffee in a dozen different diners, but no one stood out, no one seemed right. Until he walked into Jennifer's diner at 5:30 in the morning on his 4th day of searching. The diner was small, old, the kind of place that had been there for decades and looked exactly the same as it had in 1975. Worn booths, scratched counters, a jukebox in the corner that probably didn't work, but it was clean, warm, and when Richard walked in, shaking off the cold November rain, the waitress behind the counter looked up and smiled at him like he was a welcomed guest instead of a burden. "Morning," she said. "Grab any seat. I'll be right with you." Richard sat at the counter. He was wearing jeans and an old jacket, trying to look ordinary, trying not to stand out. Most people didn't recognize him without his expensive suits anyway. Business news wasn't exactly mainstream entertainment. The waitress brought him coffee without asking, set it down with a small smile. "You look like you need this. Rough morning?" "Something like that," Richard said. He watched her as she moved around the diner. She was probably early 30s, with brown hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing the standard diner uniform of black pants and a white shirt with her name tag, Jennifer. She moved with efficiency but not rush, took care of the few other customers with genuine warmth, remembered their orders without writing them down, asked about their families, their jobs, their lives. This was someone who cared about people. Richard could see it in every interaction. The way she touched an old man's shoulder when she refilled his coffee. The way she laughed at a construction worker's bad joke. The way she slipped an extra piece of pie to a young mother whose kids were with her, doing it casually so the woman wouldn't feel like charity. Richard studied Jennifer for an hour, watched how she worked, how she treated people, and he started to see things, little things, the way her shoes were worn but polished, the way she checked her phone during quiet moments with a worried expression, the way she counted her tips at the end of her shift, separating bills into different envelopes labeled rent, utilities, mom's medicine. This was someone struggling, someone working hard and barely getting by, someone who had to choose which bills to pay each month. And yet, despite her own problems, she was kind to everyone, was generous with her time and attention, was making people's mornings better just by being present and caring. This was who Richard had been looking for. He knew it with sudden certainty. Jennifer Hayes was his test subject, his chance to see if he could make a real difference, his way of leaving something meaningful behind. So Richard had stayed until the diner cleared out around 6 a.m., until it was just him and Jennifer and the cook in the back. And then he'd asked his question, the question that would change both their lives forever. "If you had $50 million right now, what would you do with it?" Jennifer had laughed at first, thought he was making small talk or joking. $50 million? That's a lot of money. "I'm serious," Richard said. "What would you do?" Jennifer's smile faded. She looked at him carefully, trying to figure out if this was some kind of trick. Then she said, "I'd pay off my student loans. They're crushing me. $30,000 for a degree I never finished because I had to drop out when my mom got sick. Then I'd pay for my mom's medical treatments. She has MS, and the insurance won't cover half of what she needs. Then," she paused, thinking, "then I'd start a scholarship fund for kids like me. Kids who have potential but can't afford college. Kids who have to choose between their education and their family. I'd make sure they didn't have to choose, that they could do both." It was a good answer, a selfless answer, an answer that showed Jennifer thought about more than just herself. But Richard needed to push further, needed to see if she really meant it or if she was just saying what sounded good. "What about you?" Richard asked. "What would you buy for yourself?" Jennifer smiled sadly. "I'd buy new shoes. These ones have holes in the soles, but I can't afford replacements. And I'd get my car fixed. The check engine light's been on for 3 months. And maybe I'd take a vacation. Just a week somewhere warm. I've never been anywhere except this city. Would be nice to see the ocean. Modest dreams. Humble wishes. Nothing about mansions or jewelry or luxury. Just basic things that most people took for granted. New shoes. A working car. One vacation in 33 years of life. That's when Richard made his decision. Made the call. Transferred the money. And watched Jennifer's face change from confusion to shock to disbelief to terror. "What did you do?" Jennifer whispered, staring at her phone. "Why would you do this? I don't understand. Who are you?" "My name is Richard Montgomery," he said. "And I just gave you a chance that most people never get. A chance to prove what you're made of. What you can do with resources and opportunity. You have 1 year. Use the money however you want. Start that scholarship fund. Help your mother. Buy 1,000 pairs of shoes. I don't care. Just do something meaningful with it. Something that matters. And at the end of the year, I'll check in. See what you've accomplished. If you've used it well, you keep it all and get another 50 million. If you've wasted it, you give back what's left, and we're done. Do you understand?" "No," Jennifer said honestly. "I don't understand any of this. Why me? You don't know me. I'm nobody. I'm just a waitress." "You're someone who's kind even when it costs you," Richard said. "Someone who thinks about others before yourself. Someone who has good ideas but no way to execute them. You're exactly who I'm looking for. Don't overthink this, Jennifer. Just accept it. Use it. Make me proud." And then he'd left. Walked out into the cold morning. Climbed into the beat-up car he'd rented specifically to not look like a billionaire. And drove away, leaving Jennifer standing there with $50 million and a million questions. Richard went back to his penthouse. Made himself breakfast for the first time in years instead of having his chef do it. Sat at his kitchen table and thought about what he'd just done. About whether it was crazy or brilliant or both. About whether Jennifer would rise to the challenge or crumble under the pressure. But mostly, Richard thought about how alive he felt, how excited, how curious about what would happen next. For the first time since his diagnosis, he wasn't thinking about death. Wasn't drowning in regret. He was thinking about possibilities, about potential, about making a difference in someone's life in a way that actually mattered. Jennifer, meanwhile, was having a complete breakdown in the diner bathroom. She'd locked herself in, sitting on the floor, crying and laughing and hyperventilating all at the same time. $50 million. It was more money than she could conceptualize, more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes working at the diner, more than she'd ever dreamed of having. And it came with conditions, came with expectations, came with a billionaire watching to see what she'd do with it. Jennifer pulled out her phone and stared at her bank account. The money was real. Actually there. She could withdraw it right now. Could pay off her debts. Could help her mother. Could quit this job she'd worked for 8 years, barely scraping by, living paycheck to paycheck, with no hope of ever getting ahead. But she could also lose it all. If Richard Montgomery decided she'd wasted it, if she made the wrong choices, if she failed whatever test this was supposed to be. Jennifer thought about her mother. About the woman who'd raised her alone after Jennifer's father died. About the woman who'd sacrificed everything to give Jennifer opportunities. About the woman who was now sick and suffering and trying to hide how much pain she was in because she didn't want to be a burden. She thought about all the kids in her old neighborhood, kids who were smart and talented and full of potential, kids who'd never go to college because their families couldn't afford it, kids who'd end up working minimum wage jobs, just like Jennifer, never getting the chance to be who they could be. She thought about Richard Montgomery's question, "What would you do with $50 million?" And she realized she'd already answered it, already knew exactly what she was going to do. Jennifer stood up, washed her face, took a deep breath, walked back out into the diner where her manager was giving her worried looks. "I need to take some time off," Jennifer said. "Family emergency. I'll be back tomorrow to give you my 2 weeks' notice." "What? You're quitting?" Her manager looked shocked. Jennifer had been the most reliable employee for years. "I'm starting something new," Jennifer said. "Something important. I'll explain later." Jennifer drove home in her broken car, the check engine light glowing like always. She walked into the small apartment she shared with her mother. Found her mom sitting in her wheelchair by the window, looking out at the city, like she always did when the pain was bad and she was trying not to show it. "Mom," Jennifer said, kneeling beside the wheelchair. "Something happened today. Something impossible. And I need you to trust me. Trust that what I'm about to tell you is real." Her mother, Linda Hayes, turned to look at her daughter with concern. "Honey, what's wrong? Did something happen at work?" "Not wrong," Jennifer said, her voice shaking. "Right. Something went so right that I can't believe it's real. Mom, I met someone today. A man named Richard Montgomery. He gave me money. A lot of money. Enough to pay for your treatments. Enough to pay for everything. Enough to change our lives." Linda's face went pale. "Jennifer, what did you do? Did you steal something? Did you get involved with something illegal?" "No," Jennifer said quickly. "Nothing like that. He just gave it to me. Asked me what I'd do with $50 million and then transferred it to my account, just like that." Linda stared at her daughter like she'd lost her mind. "That's not real. That doesn't happen. People don't just give away $50 million to strangers." "I know it sounds crazy," Jennifer said. "But look." She showed her mother the bank account on her phone. Linda looked at the number, looked at her daughter, looked back at the number, and started crying. "Oh my God, Jennifer, is this real?" "It's real," Jennifer said, crying too now. "And Mom, I'm going to use it to help you. To give you the treatment you need. To make sure you're not in pain anymore. To make sure you can live the rest of your life with dignity and comfort. That's the first thing I'm doing. Right now, today." "No," Linda said firmly, gripping Jennifer's hand. "First thing you do is talk to a lawyer, a financial advisor, someone who knows about money, because honey, this is too much, too big. You can't just start spending it without a plan, without protection, without understanding what this means and what the conditions are." Linda was right. Jennifer knew she was right. But she was so overwhelmed, so emotional, so desperately happy and terrified at the same time, that she couldn't think clearly. "Okay," Jennifer said. "Okay. I'll find professionals to help. But Mom, we're going to be okay. After all these years of struggling, after all the pain and worry and choosing between bills, we're going to be okay." They held each other and cried, mother and daughter, both understanding that everything had changed, that their lives would never be the same, that whatever happened next, they were entering unknown territory. Jennifer spent the rest of that day in a daze, made appointments with lawyers and financial advisors, started researching how to set up a nonprofit organization, began making lists of everything she needed to do, everything she wanted to accomplish, everything that was now possible that had been impossible just hours before. But she also felt something else, something darker, a growing pressure, a weight of expectation. Because Richard Montgomery was watching, judging, waiting to see what she'd do. And if she failed, if she made the wrong choices, she'd lose it all. Would have to give back the money and return to her old life, except now, she'd know what she'd lost. Would have to live with that knowledge forever. That night, Jennifer couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing through scenarios and possibilities and fears. She thought about Richard, about why he'd chosen her, about what he really wanted, about whether this was genuinely a gift or something else, something with strings she couldn't see yet. At 2 a.m, her phone rang. Unknown number. Jennifer almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Jennifer Hayes?" A woman's voice, professional, cold. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Victoria Sterling. I'm Richard Montgomery's attorney. We need to meet. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. I'll text you the address. Don't be late. And Jennifer, don't trust Richard. Don't trust this money. And whatever you do, don't spend a single dollar until we've talked. Because what Richard didn't tell you is that this isn't a gift. It's a game. And the rules are much more complicated than you think." The line went dead. Jennifer sat up in bed, her heart racing again. But this time with fear instead of excitement. What did that mean? What rules? What game? Was Richard lying to her? Was this all some kind of trick? She grabbed her laptop and started searching for information about Richard Montgomery. Found articles about his business success, his real estate empire, his reputation as a tough negotiator and shrewd businessman. But she also found something else, something that made her blood run cold. 3 years ago, Richard Montgomery had done something similar, had given a young man named Tyler Brooks $50 million with the same challenge. Use it well, prove yourself, get more money. Tyler had started a tech company, had invested in startups, had tried to build something meaningful, and 6 months later, Tyler Brooks had died. Car accident. The police said it was tragic, but straightforward. He'd been driving too fast in bad weather, lost control. The money had reverted back to Richard's estate. Case closed. But there were conspiracy theories online. People who thought Tyler's death was suspicious, who thought Richard had somehow been involved, who thought this give away $50 million thing was some kind of elaborate scheme with a dark purpose. Jennifer closed her laptop, feeling sick. What had she gotten herself into? Who was Richard Montgomery really? And why had his attorney just warned her not to trust him? She looked at her mother, sleeping peacefully in the next room, probably for the first time in months, because she wasn't in pain, because she wasn't worrying about money. And Jennifer made a decision. She was going to that meeting tomorrow, was going to hear what Victoria Sterling had to say, was going to find out the truth about Richard Montgomery and his money and his real intentions. And if it turned out this was all some kind of dangerous game, Jennifer would walk away, would give back the money, would return to her safe, predictable, struggling life. But she also made another decision. If the money was real, if Richard's offer was genuine, if there was any way to use this opportunity to help people without getting hurt herself, Jennifer was going to take it. Because she'd seen real suffering, real struggle, real people who needed help. And if she could make their lives better, even at risk to herself, wasn't that worth it? Jennifer finally fell asleep around 4 a.m. And when she woke up 3 hours later, there was a text from an unknown number. The address for her meeting with Victoria Sterling. And one more message. Richard isn't who you think he is. And the $50 million is the least of what he's hiding. Come alone. Tell no one. Your life may depend on it. Jennifer's hands were shaking again as she read the message. This morning, she'd been a nobody. A waitress struggling to survive. And now, suddenly, she was caught in something she didn't understand. Something that involved billionaires and mysterious attorneys and veiled threats and $50 million that might be a gift or might be a trap. The only thing Jennifer knew for certain was that her life had changed forever, that she couldn't go back to who she was yesterday, that whatever happened next, she was going to have to be brave, smarter, stronger than she'd ever been before. Because Richard Montgomery had given her an opportunity, or a test, or a trap, and Jennifer Hayes was about to find out which one it really was. She got dressed, kissed her sleeping mother goodbye, and headed out into the cold morning to meet Victoria Sterling, to hear the truth about Richard Montgomery, to discover what she'd really agreed to when she'd accepted that $50 million. And as Jennifer walked through the streets of New York City, heading toward an address in a part of town she'd never been to, she thought about Richard's question one more time. What would you do with $50 million? The answer, Jennifer was beginning to realize, might be survive. Because something was very wrong with this situation, something Richard hadn't told her. Something his attorney felt the need to warn her about, something that had maybe gotten Tyler Brooks killed. And Jennifer was walking straight into it, with no idea what she was facing, no protection, no backup plan. Just her own courage and determination and desperate hope that she could figure out what was really happening before it was too late. The meeting location was a small office building in an older part of Manhattan, the kind of place that looked ordinary from the outside but might house anything inside. Jennifer checked the address 3 times to make sure she had it right. Then she took a deep breath and walked in. The elevator took her to the 5th floor. Suite 507. No name on the door, just a number. Jennifer knocked, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The door opened. A woman stood there, mid-40s, elegant, with steel gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through Jennifer. Victoria Sterling. You came, Victoria said. Good. Come in. We have a lot to discuss, and not much time, because Richard will know you're here within the hour. He tracks everything. watches everyone who takes his money. And once he knows you've talked to me, things are going to get complicated fast. Jennifer stepped into the office. And as the door closed behind her, as Victoria Sterling began to speak, as the truth about Richard Montgomery and his money and his real motivations started to unfold, Jennifer realized something terrifying. The $50 million wasn't a gift. It was a leash, a way to control her, a way to make her do things she'd never agree to otherwise. And Richard Montgomery wasn't a dying billionaire trying to do good before he passed away. He was something else. Something darker. Something dangerous. And Jennifer had just walked into his trap, with her eyes wide open. Because she'd been too desperate, too hopeful, too naive to see the warning signs. Now she had to find a way out, had to protect herself and her mother, had to figure out what Richard really wanted and how to escape his control before it was too late. But as Victoria Sterling laid out the horrible truth, as Jennifer understood for the first time what she'd actually agreed to, one thought kept repeating in her mind. I should have known. Nothing good comes for free. Everything has a price. And I just agreed to pay one I can't afford. The question was, what was she going to do about it now? Victoria Sterling closed the blinds on her office windows and turned to face Jennifer with an expression that was equal parts sympathy and urgency. Before we begin, I need you to turn off your phone. Completely off. Not airplane mode. Remove the battery if you can. Jennifer's hands trembled as she pulled out her phone. Why? What's going on? You said Richard tracks people. How? The money transfer, Victoria said flatly. When Richard sent you that $50 million, it wasn't just a bank transaction. It came with software. Embedded tracking code that links to any device you use to check that account. Your phone, your laptop, everything. Richard can see where you are, who you call, what you search for online. He's been watching every move you've made since the moment that money hit your account. Jennifer felt sick. She thought back to the previous night, her searches about Richard, her research about Tyler Brooks, the conspiracy theories she'd read. Richard had seen all of it. Knew she was suspicious. Knew she was scared. Why are you telling me this? Jennifer asked, her voice barely above a whisper. If you work for Richard, if you're his attorney, why would you warn me? Because I don't work for Richard anymore, Victoria said, her jaw tight. I quit. 2 weeks ago. After I found out what he's really doing. After I discovered that Tyler Brooks didn't die in an accident. He was murdered, and Richard Montgomery ordered it. The room seemed to tilt. Jennifer gripped the edge of Victoria's desk to steady herself. What? Sit down, Victoria said, gesturing to a chair. This is going to take a while. And you need to hear all of it before you make any decisions about what to do next. Jennifer sat, though her legs felt like they might give out anyway. Victoria poured them both water from a pitcher on a side table, then settled into her own chair behind the desk. I've been Richard's attorney for 12 years. Victoria began. Handled his business contracts, his property acquisitions, his legal affairs. I thought I knew him. Thought he was just another ruthless businessman. Tough, but fair. Then, 3 years ago, he came to me with a new project. Said he'd been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Said he wanted to give away his money before he died. Wanted to find worthy people and give them opportunities. That's what he told me, Jennifer said. Said I had 1 year to prove what I could do with $50 million. That's the lie, Victoria said. The truth is darker. Richard doesn't have cancer. Never did. The diagnosis was fake. The whole dying billionaire story is a cover for what he's really doing. Which is what? Jennifer demanded. Social engineering, Victoria said. Richard is conducting an experiment. He's testing a theory he's obsessed with. He believes that money corrupts everyone eventually. That no matter how good someone's intentions are, if you give them enough wealth, they'll become selfish, greedy, immoral. He wants to prove that goodness is just poverty in disguise. That anyone, given resources and freedom from consequences, will reveal their true corrupt nature. Jennifer shook her head. That's insane. Why would he care about proving that? Because of his brother, Victoria said quietly. Richard and his brother James built their real estate empire together. Started with nothing, worked side by side for 20 years. They were best friends, partners, family. Then, 15 years ago, when they finally made it big, When the money started really flowing, James betrayed him, embezzled millions, slept with Richard's fiancée, tried to steal the company out from under him. Richard discovered it all, confronted James, and James laughed in his face. Said, "Money just revealed who I always was, brother. You were too blind to see it." "So Richard has been trying to prove his brother right," Jennifer said slowly, understanding dawning. "By giving money to good people and watching them turn bad." "Exactly," Victoria confirmed. Tyler Brooks was his first test subject. Young man, 26 years old, working 2 jobs to support his sick mother and younger siblings. Richard gave him $50 million with the same speech he gave you. Same conditions, same timeline. And for the first 3 months, Tyler did everything right. Paid for his mother's treatments, set up trust funds for his siblings, started a charitable foundation. He was proving Richard wrong. Showing that good people stay good even with money. "But then something changed?" Jennifer asked. "Richard made it change," Victoria said, her voice hardening. "He started manipulating Tyler's life. Had people approach him with investment opportunities that seemed legitimate but were actually scams. Created situations where Tyler had to make difficult ethical choices. Pressured him, isolated him from his family, made him paranoid. And slowly, Tyler started making mistakes, started taking shortcuts, started bending rules. Nothing terrible at first, just small compromises. But Richard documented everything, built a case that Tyler was becoming corrupt. And then Tyler died," Jennifer said. Victoria nodded. "Tyler figured out what Richard was doing. Confronted him. Threatened to go public with Richard's manipulation. Said he'd expose the whole experiment. So Richard had him killed, made it look like an accident, and walked away with his theory intact. Tyler Brooks, the good young man, had been corrupted by wealth and met a tragic end. Exactly what Richard wanted to prove." Jennifer stood up abruptly, panic rising in her chest. "I need to give the money back. Right now, I need to get away from him." "It's not that simple," Victoria said. "The money comes with a contract. You signed it digitally when you checked your bank account this morning." "Did you read the terms and conditions that popped up?" Jennifer's mind raced back. Yes, there had been something. A screen of legal text she'd barely glanced at before clicking agree. She'd been too shocked by the balance to pay attention. "That contract gives Richard certain rights," Victoria continued. "If you try to return the money without his permission, you breach the agreement. He can sue you for damages, can seize any assets the money touched. Your mother's medical treatments? He can demand that money back, even if it's already been spent on care. Your apartment rent? If you paid it with that money, he can claim it. The contract is designed to trap you, to make it impossible to walk away without destroying yourself and everyone you love." "That can't be legal," Jennifer said desperately. "It's legal enough," Victoria said. "And even if you fought it in court, Richard has unlimited resources and the best lawyers money can buy. You'd lose. And you'd be buried in legal fees you can't afford." Jennifer sank back into her chair, feeling the trap closing around her. "So what do I do? Just let him manipulate me? Let him turn me into a monster so he can prove his twisted theory?" "No," Victoria said firmly. "You fight back. You play his game, but on your terms. You stay good. No matter what he throws at you. No matter how hard he makes it. You prove him wrong. You become the one person he can't corrupt. And when the year is up, when you've passed his test, you expose him. You go public with everything. You destroy his reputation and his theory, and make sure he never does this to anyone else again." "How am I supposed to do that?" Jennifer asked. "He's watching me, tracking me. He has unlimited money and power. I'm just a waitress who barely finished high school." "You're more than that," Victoria said. "You're someone who's survived impossible circumstances with your integrity intact. Someone who thinks about others before yourself. Someone who Richard chose, specifically, because he thought you'd be easy to corrupt. Prove him wrong, Jennifer. Be the exception." "I can't do this alone," Jennifer said. "I need help. You need me," Victoria interrupted. "That's why I'm here. I'll help you. I have dirt on Richard. Evidence of his manipulation. Proof of Tyler's murder. Not enough to go to the police yet, but enough to protect you. Enough to push back if Richard goes too far. We'll work together. You handle the public-facing part. Build your scholarship fund. Help people, stay visible, and stay good. I'll handle the background. Watch for Richard's moves. Counter his manipulations. Keep you safe. Why would you risk this? Jennifer asked. If Richard finds out you're helping me, he'll kill me too, Victoria finished calmly. I know, but I can't stand by and watch him destroy another person. Tyler was a good kid, didn't deserve what happened to him, and I helped it happen, drew up the contracts, facilitated the experiment. I have blood on my hands, Jennifer. This is my chance to make it right. To stop Richard before he hurts anyone else. Will you let me help you? Jennifer looked at Victoria Sterling, at the determination in her eyes, at the guilt she carried, at the risk she was taking, and Jennifer made a decision. She was scared, terrified, actually, but she was also angry. Angry at Richard for thinking he could use her like a lab rat. Angry at the injustice of someone with so much power playing games with people's lives. Angry at a world where billionaires could literally get away with murder. Okay, Jennifer said. I'm in. Tell me what I need to do. Victoria smiled for the first time since Jennifer had arrived. First, we get you a new phone. One Richard can't track. I have one prepared. She pulled a smartphone from her desk drawer. Second, we establish a pattern of normal behavior on your tracked devices. I'll set up software to simulate your usual activity while you actually communicate with me through the secure phone. Third, we build your public image. Starting today, you become the perfect philanthropist. Every dollar you spend gets documented and publicized. Every choice you make gets recorded. We create an unassailable record of your goodness that Richard can't twist or manipulate. Won't that make him suspicious? Jennifer asked. Probably, Victoria admitted. But it also protects you. The more public you are, the harder it is for him to hurt you directly. He'll have to be subtle, creative, and that gives us time to anticipate his moves. For the next 2 hours, Victoria laid out a detailed plan. Jennifer would start by setting up the Hayes Foundation for Educational Opportunity, would hire a team of advisors and managers to help run it properly, would begin accepting applications for scholarships immediately, would hold a press conference announcing her intentions, would become a public figure advocating for educational access and opportunity for underprivileged students. The publicity protects you, Victoria explained, but it also creates pressure. You'll be under constant scrutiny. Every decision you make will be examined. Every dollar you spend will be questioned. You'll have to be perfect, Jennifer. No mistakes, no lapses in judgment. Can you handle that? I don't know, Jennifer said honestly, but I'll try. Trying isn't enough, Victoria said sharply. Richard will exploit any weakness, any doubt, any moment of selfishness or poor judgment. You have to be absolutely certain of who you are and what you stand for. Because he's going to test you in ways you can't imagine. Jennifer thought about her mother, about the medical treatments she desperately needed, about the pain Linda was in every single day, about how the money could save her mother's life. My mom, Jennifer said. Her treatments, is it okay to pay for those, or will Richard use it against me somehow? It's okay, Victoria said. Caring for your family is reasonable. But Jennifer, you need to be careful. Richard will find a way to turn even that into something ugly. Maybe he'll claim you're spending excessively on experimental treatments. Maybe he'll suggest you're prolonging your mother's suffering for selfish reasons. Maybe he'll find doctors willing to say the care you're providing is inappropriate. You have to document everything, get second opinions, make sure every medical decision is defensible. This is insane, Jennifer muttered. I'm supposed to save receipts to prove I'm not a bad person for helping my dying mother? Yes, Victoria said without apology. That's exactly what you need to do. Because Richard Montgomery isn't playing by normal rules, and if you want to beat him, neither can you. Jennifer left Victoria's office 3 hours after she'd arrived. Her head was spinning with information, instructions, and the weight of what she'd learned. She had the secure phone hidden in her purse, had a list of people Victoria recommended she hire to help run the foundation, had a schedule of tasks she needed to complete in the next week, had a plan for how to survive Richard Montgomery's experiment. But she also had doubt, deep, gnawing doubt about whether she was strong enough, smart enough, good enough to pull this off. Jennifer drove to her mother's doctor's office. Had an appointment she'd made that morning to discuss treatment options now that money wasn't an obstacle. The doctor, an older man named Dr. Patterson, who'd been treating Linda for 5 years, greeted Jennifer with surprise. "I got your message about payment, doctor," Patterson said. "Jennifer, I have to ask, where did you get this money? Your mother's treatment is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Did you take out a loan? Because I don't want you destroying your financial future." "It's complicated," Jennifer interrupted. "But the money is real and legal. I just need to know. Can you help my mom? Can you make her better?" Dr. Patterson hesitated. "Better is relative with MS. We can slow the progression, manage the symptoms, reduce her pain. There's a new treatment protocol that's shown promising results. Very expensive, which is why I haven't suggested it before. But with funding, we could try it. No guarantees, but your mother could have years of good quality life instead of months of suffering." "Do it," Jennifer said. "Whatever it costs, whatever she needs, do it." Dr. Patterson nodded slowly. "I'll start the paperwork. Jennifer, I'm happy for your mother. But please be careful. Sudden money can bring problems. Make sure you're protecting yourself." If only he knew, Jennifer thought. She drove home, where Linda was waiting anxiously. Jennifer had texted her that morning, saying they needed to talk, but hadn't explained. Now, sitting in their small living room, Jennifer tried to figure out how to tell her mother the truth without terrifying her. "The money is real," Jennifer started, "but it's complicated." She told Linda everything. About Richard, about the test, about Victoria, about Tyler Brooks, about the danger they might be in. Linda listened, her face growing paler with each revelation. "We have to give it back," Linda said immediately. "Jennifer, this is too dangerous. I don't care about the treatments. I don't care about my health. I won't let you risk your life for me." "It's not just about you, Mom," Jennifer said. "If I can make this work, I can help so many people. Kids who are like I was, who have potential but no opportunity. I can make a real difference. Isn't that worth the risk?" "Not if it gets you killed," Linda said firmly. "I'll be careful," Jennifer promised. "Victoria is helping me. We have a plan. And Mom, Richard chose me because he thinks I'll fail, thinks I'll become corrupt. The best way to stay safe is to prove him wrong. To be so obviously good that he can't justify hurting me." Linda grabbed Jennifer's hands. "Listen to me. I've lived 58 years. I've seen how the world works. People with power like Richard Montgomery don't play fair. They don't follow rules. If you become a threat to him, to his theory, to his reputation, he will eliminate you. And all your goodness won't matter. You'll just be dead." "I know," Jennifer whispered. "But Mom, what's the alternative? Live in fear? Give up? Let him win? I can't do that. I won't." They argued for another hour, Linda begging Jennifer to walk away, Jennifer insisting she couldn't. Finally, exhausted, they reached an uneasy compromise. Jennifer would continue with her plan, but she'd be careful, would follow Victoria's advice, would document everything, would build protection through publicity, and if at any point things became too dangerous, she'd find a way out, even if it meant losing everything. That night, Jennifer couldn't sleep again. She lay in bed, thinking about Tyler Brooks. About a young man who'd probably felt exactly like she did right now. Hopeful, determined, convinced he could beat Richard's game. And then, he died. Crashed his car on a rainy night in what everyone believed was an accident. What had Tyler been thinking in his last moments? Had he known it was coming? Had he been scared? Had he regretted accepting Richard's money? Jennifer's new secure phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "First task tomorrow. Press conference at 10 a.m. to announce the Hayes Foundation. I've scheduled it. Invited media. Prepared talking points. You need to be confident, articulate, and passionate. This is your first public appearance. Make it count." Jennifer typed back, "I've never done a press conference. What if I mess up?" Victoria's response was immediate. "Then Richard wins. Practice your speech. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, you become Jennifer Hayes, philanthropist. Leave the scared waitress behind." Then, easy for her to say, Jennifer thought. But Victoria was right. Tomorrow was the first real test. The first time Jennifer would step into the spotlight and declare her intentions to the world. The first time she'd make herself visible and vulnerable. The first time she'd paint a target on her back and dare Richard to take his shot. Jennifer got up and went to her tiny kitchen, started writing notes, practicing what she'd say, thinking about the scholarship fund, about the students she wanted to help, about the difference she could make if she survived this. By 4 a.m., Jennifer had a speech memorized, had practiced it a dozen times in front of her bathroom mirror, had tried to channel confidence she didn't feel, had reminded herself over and over that she was doing this for the right reasons, that her intentions were good. That goodness had to count for something. At 6 a.m., Victoria sent a car for her, a professional driver who didn't make small talk. Jennifer was grateful for the silence. She needed to think, needed to prepare, needed to transform herself from terrified waitress to confident philanthropist in the next few hours. The press conference was being held at a hotel conference room in Midtown Manhattan. When Jennifer arrived, she was shocked by the setup. Dozens of chairs arranged in rows, multiple cameras, lights, a podium with microphones. This was real. This was actually happening. Victoria appeared at her elbow. "You look terrified. Stop it. Smile. You're about to announce something wonderful. Act like it." "What if no one comes?" Jennifer whispered. "What if the media doesn't care?" "They'll come," Victoria said with certainty. "I made sure of it. Leaked the story to a few key journalists. Mysterious waitress suddenly has $50 million and wants to give it away to students? That's a human interest story, goldmine. They'll be here." Victoria was right. By 9:45, the room was packed. Reporters, cameras, curious onlookers. Jennifer stood behind a curtain at the back of the room, watching the crowd gather, feeling her anxiety spike with each new arrival. 5 minutes, Victoria said. Remember. Confident. Passionate. Genuine. Tell your story. Explain the foundation. Take a few questions. Keep it to 20 minutes total. You can do this. Jennifer wasn't sure she could, but she nodded anyway. At exactly 10 a.m., someone introduced her, Jennifer Hayes, founder of the Hayes Foundation for Educational Opportunity, and Jennifer walked out from behind the curtain, stepped up to the podium, and looked out at a sea of faces and cameras and expectation. For a moment, she froze, couldn't remember her speech, couldn't remember why she was there, couldn't remember anything except terror. Then she saw her mother. Linda had somehow made it here, wheelchair and all, sitting in the back row. Their eyes met. Linda smiled, mouthed the words, "You've got this." Jennifer took a deep breath and began to speak. "My name is Jennifer Hayes. 2 days ago, I was a waitress at a diner, barely making rent, watching my mother suffer because I couldn't afford her medical treatments. Today, I'm standing in front of you with an opportunity to change lives. Not just my own life, not just my mother's life, but the lives of hundreds, maybe thousands of young people who deserve a chance at education but can't afford it." The words started coming easier. Jennifer told her story, about dropping out of college to care for her sick mother, about working minimum wage for 8 years, about watching talented kids in her neighborhood give up on their dreams because college was impossible, about the pain of wasted potential. Then she explained the foundation. How it would provide full scholarships to students from low-income families. How it would cover not just tuition, but living expenses, books, everything needed to actually succeed in college. How applicants would be judged not on grades or test scores, but on potential, character, and determination. How this was about giving people the same chance Jennifer wished she'd had. "I know some of you are wondering where this money came from," Jennifer said, addressing the obvious question. "I was given an extraordinary gift by someone who believes in investing in people. I could have used this money selfishly, could have bought a mansion, could have lived in luxury, but that's not who I am, and it's not what this money is for. This is about opportunity, about hope, about proving that given a chance, people will rise, will achieve, will contribute. I'm going to prove that, not just for myself, but for every student who receives a Hayes Foundation scholarship." She finished her prepared remarks and opened the floor to questions. The reporters had many. Where exactly did the money come from? Was she connected to Richard Montgomery? What were her qualifications for running a foundation? How would she ensure the money was spent appropriately? Jennifer answered carefully, following Victoria's coaching. Yes, the money came from a private donor. No, she couldn't reveal who, at their request. Yes, she was hiring experienced professionals to help manage the foundation. Yes, everything would be transparent and audited regularly. Then a reporter in the back raised his hand. Young man, probably mid-20s, with sharp eyes and a skeptical expression. Miss Hayes, Tyler Brooks was in a similar situation 3 years ago. Given money by a mysterious donor, started a foundation. 6 months later, he was dead. Are you worried the same thing might happen to you? The room went silent. Every camera focused on Jennifer's face. This was the moment. The first real test. How she answered this question would set the tone for everything that followed. Jennifer looked directly at the reporter. I know about Tyler Brooks. And yes, his death was tragic. But I'm not Tyler. I'm not going to let fear stop me from doing good. If someone wants to hurt me for trying to help people, that says more about them than it does about me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this foundation work. And I'm going to prove that goodness doesn't make you a target. It makes you stronger. It was a good answer. A brave answer. The kind of answer that would make great headlines and sound bites. But as Jennifer said the words, as she stood there under the lights and cameras, she couldn't shake one thought. Tyler Brooks had probably said something similar. Had probably believed he was untouchable. Had probably thought his goodness would protect him. And then he died. The press conference ended. Jennifer was swarmed by reporters wanting follow-up interviews. Victoria ran interference, scheduling appointments, managing the chaos. Jennifer smiled and nodded and said thank you over and over until her face hurt from the fake cheerfulness. Finally, they escaped to a back room where Linda was waiting. Jennifer collapsed into a chair, exhausted and exhilarated and terrified all at once. You did beautifully, Linda said, squeezing Jennifer's hand. I'm so proud of you. It's just the beginning, Victoria said, checking her phone. And Jennifer, you need to see this. She showed Jennifer a text message from an unknown number, but Jennifer knew who it was. Richard Montgomery. The text was simple. Impressive performance. But we both know, the hard part hasn't started yet. Let's see how long you can maintain that pretty facade. The game is just beginning. Jennifer felt ice in her veins. Richard had been watching, had seen the press conference, had heard her challenge his authority, and now he was responding, letting her know that he wasn't intimidated, that he was ready for whatever she threw at him. What do I do? Jennifer asked Victoria. You do exactly what you said you'd do, Victoria replied. You keep going, you stay good. You prove him wrong. Because Jennifer, that text? That's not confidence. That's worry. You scared him today. You made yourself too visible, too public, too obviously good for him to easily manipulate. So he's trying to intimidate you, trying to make you doubt yourself. Don't let him. Jennifer wanted to believe Victoria, wanted to think that Richard was worried. But the text message didn't read like worry. It read like a promise, like a predator alerting its prey that the hunt had begun. And Jennifer, standing in that back room with her mother and her lawyer, with cameras outside still rolling and reporters still asking questions, realized something fundamental about her situation. She wasn't just fighting Richard Montgomery. She wasn't just trying to run a foundation and help students and prove a billionaire wrong. She was fighting for her life. And the life of everyone she cared about. Because if Richard decided she was too much trouble, if he decided to eliminate the threat she posed, he wouldn't stop with just Jennifer. He'd go after Linda, after Victoria, after anyone connected to her. The stakes were life and death, and the game had only just begun. Jennifer's phone buzzed. Not the secure one. Her regular tracked phone. Another message. This one with an attachment. A photo. Jennifer opened it and felt her blood freeze. It was a picture of her apartment building, taken from outside. Today, within the last hour, while Jennifer was at the press conference, and written across the image in red letters. Your mother was alone today. That was a mistake. Make sure it doesn't happen again. Jennifer showed Victoria and Linda the message. Linda went pale. Victoria's jaw clenched. He's threatening my mother, Jennifer whispered. He's saying if I don't back down, he'll hurt her. No, Victoria said firmly. He's testing you, seeing if you'll panic, if you'll make a mistake. This is psychological warfare, Jennifer. He wants you scared. Wants you making decisions from fear instead of strategy. Don't give him that power. Easy for you to say, Jennifer snapped. It's not your mother he's threatening. Actually, Victoria said quietly, it is. My daughter, Emily. She's 23, lives in Boston, works as a teacher. 2 days ago, she was in a car accident. Minor. Just a fender bender. But the police report says the other driver fled the scene, was never caught. My daughter is fine. But Jennifer? I know it wasn't an accident. I know Richard was sending me a message, telling me what he could do if I kept interfering. And I'm still here. Still helping you. Because some things are worth the risk. Jennifer looked at Victoria with new understanding. She wasn't just a lawyer trying to make amends. She was someone who'd already paid a price for standing up to Richard. Someone who understood the stakes and chose to fight anyway. What do we do about my mother? Jennifer asked. I can't leave her alone. Can't let her be vulnerable. We get her protection, Victoria said. I know people, security professionals, former police and military. People who can keep Linda safe without being obvious about it. People Richard won't see coming. It'll cost money, but you have money. Use it for what matters. And what about me? Jennifer asked. Do I need protection too? You already have it, Victoria said. The publicity, the foundation, the public image we're building, that's your protection. But yes, we'll get you a security detail too. Discreet. Professional. Starting tomorrow. They spent the next hour making plans, hiring security, moving Linda to a safer location temporarily, setting up protocols for communication and safety. By the time they finished, Jennifer felt slightly less terrified, slightly more in control. But she also felt something else, something darker, a growing anger at Richard Montgomery, at his arrogance, his cruelty, his willingness to hurt innocent people to prove a philosophical point. Jennifer had been scared before. Now she was getting mad. And angry Jennifer was more dangerous than scared Jennifer. Because scared Jennifer wanted to run. But angry Jennifer wanted to fight. He made a mistake, Jennifer said to Victoria as they prepared to leave. Richard. He made a mistake by threatening my mother. Because now, this isn't just about proving him wrong. Now it's personal. Now I want to destroy him. Victoria smiled grimly. Good. Use that anger. Channel it. But Jennifer, be smart about it. Richard is expecting you to make emotional decisions. Expecting you to lash out. Don't give him what he expects. Be cold, calculated, strategic. Beat him at his own game. Jennifer nodded. She understood. This was chess, not boxing. And she needed to think 3 moves ahead instead of just swinging blindly. They left through a back exit to avoid remaining reporters. Victoria's driver took them to a safe house she'd arranged. A small apartment in a different part of the city where Linda could stay with private security until they figured out a long-term solution. As they settled Linda into her temporary home, as they went over safety protocols and emergency contacts, Jennifer's secure phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. Jennifer Hayes, we need to meet. I have information about Richard Montgomery that you need to hear. Information that could save your life. Tonight. Midnight. I'll send an address. Come alone. Ed. Jennifer showed the message to Victoria. Is this legitimate or a trap? Could be either, Victoria admitted. Could be someone who genuinely wants to help. Could be Richard testing you. Could be a third party with their own agenda. There's no way to know without taking the risk. So what do I do? You go, Victoria said. But not alone. I'll be nearby, and we'll have security close. If it's a trap, we'll extract you. If it's legitimate, you might get information we desperately need. And if I die? Jennifer asked bluntly. Then I make sure Richard pays for it, Victoria promised. I make sure your mother is taken care of. I make sure the foundation continues. And I make sure everyone knows exactly what Richard Montgomery is. That's my promise to you, Jennifer. If this kills you, it won't be for nothing. It wasn't the most comforting promise Jennifer had ever received. But it was honest, and right now, honesty was more valuable than comfort. Jennifer spent the rest of the day at the safe house with her mother. They talked, really talked, about Jennifer's father who died when she was 10, About Linda's regrets and dreams. About what they'd do if they survived this. About how much they loved each other. By 11 p.m., it was time to go. Jennifer hugged her mother tight, neither of them knowing if they'd see each other again. "Be safe," Linda whispered. "Please, Jennifer, be safe." "I'll try," Jennifer promised. "And Mom? Thank you. For raising me to care about people. For teaching me that kindness matters. Whatever happens tonight, whatever happens with Richard, I'm glad I'm trying to do good. I'm glad I'm fighting for something that matters. You taught me that." They held each other for a long moment. Then Jennifer pulled away and walked out to meet whatever awaited her at midnight. The address was an old warehouse in an industrial area near the waterfront, abandoned, dark, isolated. Exactly the kind of place where someone would get murdered in a horror movie. "I don't like this," Victoria said through Jennifer's earpiece. "This location is too exposed, too dangerous. We should abort." "We need information," Jennifer replied quietly. "And besides, if Richard wants me dead, he doesn't need to lure me to a warehouse. He can kill me anytime. This is something else." Jennifer approached the warehouse carefully. The door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open and stepped inside. The space was enormous, empty. Moonlight streaming through broken windows cast strange shadows across the concrete floor. "Hello?" Jennifer called out. "I'm here. Where are you?" A figure stepped out from behind a pillar. Tall, male, face hidden in shadows. Jennifer tensed, ready to run. "Thank you for coming," the figure said. A man's voice, cultured, calm. "I know this seems dramatic, but I had to be sure we weren't followed. That Richard's people weren't watching." "Who are you?" Jennifer demanded. The man stepped into a shaft of moonlight, and Jennifer gasped. Because she recognized him, not from real life, but from the photographs Victoria had shown her. From the research she'd done, the man standing in front of her was James Montgomery, Richard's brother, the one who'd supposedly betrayed him 15 years ago, the one Richard hadn't spoken to since, the one Richard blamed for his twisted worldview. "I'm the person who knows Richard better than anyone alive," James said. "I'm the person who created the monster you're dealing with, and I'm the person who's going to help you stop him, because Jennifer, Richard didn't tell you everything. The experiment isn't just about proving people are corruptible, it's about something worse, something that's going to get you killed if you don't listen to me right now." Jennifer's mind was reeling. James Montgomery, here, now, claiming he wanted to help. This was impossible, insane, too convenient to be real. "Why should I trust you?" Jennifer asked. "Richard says you betrayed him, destroyed your relationship. Why would you help me hurt your own brother?" James's face hardened. "Because Richard destroyed me first. Everything he told you about our past, lies. I didn't embezzle from him. I didn't sleep with his fiancée. I didn't try to steal the company. Richard did those things. To me. And when I fought back, when I tried to expose him, he buried me. Destroyed my reputation, took everything I'd built. Made sure no one would believe a word I said. For 15 years, I've been waiting for a chance to prove the truth. You're that chance, Jennifer. You're the person who can finally show the world who Richard Montgomery really is." "I don't understand," Jennifer said. "If Richard is the betrayer, why does everyone think it's you?" "Because Richard is very good at lying," James said simply. "Very good at manipulation. Very good at making himself the victim. And I was too proud to fight dirty. Too naive to realize I was in a war. By the time I figured out what he was doing, it was too late. He'd already poisoned everyone against me, already seized control of the company, already rewritten history." "What does this have to do with his experiment?" Jennifer asked. "With the money he gave me?" James pulled out a folder from his jacket. "This is the part that's going to shock you. The part Richard hasn't told you. Jennifer, the money he gave you, it's not his to give. It's stolen. From me. From the company we built together. Richard has been embezzling for years, hiding assets, moving money through shell corporations. And the 50 million he gave you? That's just a tiny piece of what he's stolen. Enough to be significant to you, but small enough that no one would notice it missing from his vast fortune." "I don't believe you," Jennifer said, though doubt was creeping in. "Then look at the evidence," James said, holding out the folder. "Bank records, corporate filings, forensic accounting reports, all showing systematic theft, all proving that Richard built his empire on fraud. And Jennifer, here's the important part. If you accept this folder, if you look at this evidence, you become a witness. You become someone who knows the truth. And that makes you incredibly dangerous to Richard. More dangerous than you already are. Jennifer stared at the folder. Knew she shouldn't take it. Knew it was probably a trap or a trick or a manipulation. But she also knew she needed answers. Needed to understand what she was really dealing with. She reached out and took the folder. And at that exact moment, the warehouse exploded with light. Spotlights from every direction. Voices shouting. Figures rushing in from all sides. Jennifer dropped the folder and raised her hands instinctively. FBI, don't move. Hands where we can see them. Jennifer froze. James froze. And as federal agents swarmed around them, as Jennifer realized she'd just been caught in some kind of sting operation, one thought dominated her mind. Richard knew about this meeting, had set this up, had somehow arranged for the FBI to catch Jennifer meeting with his supposedly corrupt brother, accepting what looked like evidence of James's crimes instead of Richard's. She'd been played, beautifully, perfectly played. And now she was standing in a warehouse, surrounded by federal agents, holding a folder full of evidence that probably implicated James in financial crimes, looking exactly like a naive waitress who'd been manipulated by a known fraudster. Victoria's voice crackled in Jennifer's earpiece. Don't say anything. I'm calling our lawyers. Do not speak without legal representation. Jennifer, this is bad. This is really bad. Just stay calm. But staying calm was impossible. Because as the FBI agents handcuffed both Jennifer and James, as they confiscated the folder and Jennifer's phone and started reading them their rights, Jennifer realized the full extent of Richard's manipulation. He hadn't just threatened her mother, hadn't just scared her, he'd set up an elaborate trap that made Jennifer look guilty of something, made her look like she was conspiring with a known criminal, made her look exactly like someone whose character should be questioned. This was how he destroyed Tyler Brooks's reputation, Jennifer thought. Not by making him actually corrupt, but by making him look corrupt. By putting him in situations where his innocence couldn't be proven. Where the optics were terrible even if the reality was innocent. And now Richard was doing the same thing to Jennifer. On her very first day as a public figure. On the same day she'd held a press conference declaring her good intentions. He was going to destroy her before she even got started. The FBI agents led Jennifer and James out of the warehouse to waiting vehicles. Jennifer looked around desperately for Victoria's security team, but saw no one. They'd either been blocked by the FBI presence or had wisely stayed hidden to avoid their own arrest. As Jennifer was put into the back of a federal vehicle, as the door closed and the engine started, as she was driven away from the warehouse toward whatever came next, she realized something terrible. Richard Montgomery had just made his first real move. And it was devastating. Jennifer Hayes, the good waitress trying to help students, had just been arrested by the FBI for conspiracy to commit financial fraud. Her reputation was destroyed. Her foundation was compromised. Her ability to fight back was crippled. And Richard, wherever he was probably smiling, because his theory was being proven. Give someone money, he'd said. Watch them become corrupt. Watch them make bad choices. Watch them fall. Jennifer hadn't become corrupt, but it didn't matter, because in the court of public opinion, in the world of perception and image and public relations, she looked corrupt, and that was just as effective. The game had turned against her, and Jennifer had no idea how to turn it back. Jennifer sat in a cold interrogation room for 6 hours before anyone spoke to her. No water, no phone call, no explanation. Just fluorescent lights, a metal table, and her own spiraling thoughts about how catastrophically wrong everything had gone. Her wrists ached from the handcuffs they'd finally removed. Her throat was dry. But mostly, her mind raced with one question. How had Richard orchestrated this so perfectly? Finally, the door opened. 2 FBI agents walked in. A woman in her 40s with steel gray hair and sharp eyes, and a younger man who looked fresh out of Quantico. They sat across from Jennifer and placed a folder on the table between them. Miss Hayes, the woman said, I'm Special Agent Barbara Winters. This is Special Agent Tom Bradley. We have some questions about your meeting tonight with James Montgomery. I want my lawyer, Jennifer said, her voice hoarse from hours of silence. Your lawyer is on the way, Agent Winters replied. But Jennifer, we're not your enemy here. We think you might be a victim in this situation. If you cooperate, if you tell us what happened, we can help you. I'm not saying anything without my attorney present, Jennifer repeated. Agent Winters studied her for a long moment. Then she opened the folder and pulled out several photographs. They showed Jennifer entering the warehouse, meeting with James, accepting the folder, all taken from multiple angles with professional equipment. These photos were sent to us anonymously 2 hours before your meeting, Agent Winters said, along with a detailed tip that James Montgomery was going to attempt to recruit you into a financial fraud scheme, that he was going to give you false evidence to use against his brother Richard, that you were being manipulated by a known criminal. Jennifer's stomach dropped. Richard hadn't just arranged for the FBI to catch her. He'd framed the entire narrative beforehand, had told them exactly what to think they were seeing, had painted James as the villain and Jennifer as his naive accomplice. The tip was specific, Agent Bradley added, said you'd recently come into a large sum of money from an unknown source, said James Montgomery had been investigating you, had identified you as someone desperate enough to believe his lies about Richard, someone who could be used as a pawn in James's ongoing vendetta against his brother. That's not what happened, Jennifer said, despite herself, despite knowing she should wait for her lawyer. Then what did happen? Agent Winters asked, leaning forward. Because from where we're sitting, Jennifer, you look like someone in over their head, someone who made some bad choices. We want to help you, but you have to be honest with us. The door opened again. Victoria Sterling walked in with another lawyer, a tall black man in an expensive suit who introduced himself as Marcus Webb, criminal defense attorney. Jennifer had never been so relieved to see anyone in her life. My client will not be answering any questions, Marcus said immediately. And unless you're charging her with something specific, we're leaving. Now, Agent Winters looked frustrated. We're trying to help her. By interrogating her without counsel for 6 hours, Marcus shot back. By arresting her based on an anonymous tip? By treating her like a criminal when she's done nothing wrong? If you had actual evidence of wrongdoing, you'd be charging her. Since you're not, we're done here. He gestured for Jennifer to stand. She did, her legs shaky from sitting so long. Victoria touched her arm gently, providing support. James Montgomery is a convicted fraudster, Agent Winters said as they moved toward the door. He destroyed companies, hurt investors, ruined lives. Whatever he told you tonight was a lie, Miss Hayes. Don't let him use you. Convicted? Jennifer asked, turning back despite Marcus trying to guide her out. James has a criminal record? Agent Winters nodded. 5 years ago, securities fraud. He served 18 months in federal prison. It was all over the news. How do you not know this? Because Richard never mentioned it, Jennifer thought. Because Victoria never told me. Because I walked into that warehouse completely unprepared. We're leaving, Marcus said firmly, pulling Jennifer out of the interrogation room. They were led through the FBI field office to a back exit where a car was waiting. Once inside with the doors closed and the vehicle moving, Jennifer finally broke down. I'm so stupid, she sobbed. I walked right into it. Richard knew exactly what I'd do. Knew I'd take that meeting. Knew I'd look guilty. I destroyed everything in one night. You didn't destroy anything? Victoria said, though her voice was tense. This is bad, but it's not fatal. We can spin this. Can say you were investigating Richard. We're gathering evidence. We're trying to understand what you'd gotten into. No one will believe that, Jennifer said. I look exactly like what those agents said. A desperate person being manipulated by a criminal. Marcus was typing rapidly on his phone. The arrest will be public record. Media will have it by morning. We need to get ahead of this. Issue a statement. Control the narrative before Richard does. What kind of statement? Jennifer asked. What can I possibly say? The truth, Victoria said. That you were approached by someone claiming to have information about Richard Montgomery. That you agreed to meet because you wanted to understand the man who'd given you money. That you had no idea James Montgomery was a convicted criminal. That you were set up. That makes me look naive, Jennifer protested. You are naive, Victoria said bluntly. That's not an insult. It's a fact. You're a waitress who got thrown into a world of billionaires and criminals and manipulation. Of course you're naive. Use it. Make it part of your story. The innocent young woman trying to do good but being attacked from all sides. People will sympathize. Or they'll think I'm too stupid to be trusted with $50 million, Jennifer countered. Some will, Marcus admitted. But Jennifer, the alternative is staying silent, letting Richard's narrative dominate, looking guilty by saying nothing. At least if we put out a statement, we fight back. Show you're not hiding. They drove to Victoria's office, where a crisis management team was already assembled. 5 people Jennifer had never met, all looking at her like she was a bomb they needed to defuse. They spent the next 3 hours crafting a statement, debating every word, every phrase, every implication. The final statement was released at 4 a.m. Tonight I was arrested by the FBI after meeting with James Montgomery, who I now know is a convicted criminal. I agreed to this meeting because Mr. Montgomery contacted me claiming to have information about his brother Richard, the man who gave me the opportunity to start my foundation. I was trying to understand Richard's motivations and character. I had no idea I was being set up. I have done nothing wrong. I will cooperate fully with any investigation. My commitment to the Hayes Foundation and to helping students remains unchanged. I will not be intimidated or silenced by these tactics. It was released to every major media outlet simultaneously. By dawn, it was everywhere, and the response was mixed. Some outlets portrayed Jennifer sympathetically, young woman in over her head, trying to navigate complex situation. Others were brutal. Waitress playing with billionaire's money, arrested for conspiracy. Some questioned whether Jennifer was competent to run a foundation. Others speculated about what James had really told her. Everyone had an opinion. Jennifer sat in Victoria's office as the sun came up, reading headline after headline, watching her reputation get dissected in real time. Is this what Richard wanted? Jennifer asked. To make me look bad? To undermine the foundation before it even starts? Partly, Victoria said. But it's also a test. He wants to see how you respond to adversity, whether you fight or fold, whether you let this destroy you or use it to prove your character. I don't feel like fighting, Jennifer admitted. I feel like giving up. Then he wins, Victoria said simply. And Tyler Brooks died for nothing. And your mother's treatments stop. And those students you wanted to help never get their chance. Is that what you want? Of course not, Jennifer said. But I don't know how to fight this. Don't know how to come back from being arrested by the FBI. You come back by doing exactly what you said you'd do, Marcus said. You launch the foundation. You start accepting scholarship applications. You show the world that one setback doesn't stop you. You prove through actions that you're committed to this mission, regardless of what Richard throws at you. And what about the FBI investigation? Jennifer asked. What if they charge me with something? They won't, Marcus said with confidence. Because you didn't do anything. Met with someone and accepted a folder. That's not a crime. The FBI was used as a weapon by Richard. Once they realize that, once they understand they were manipulated, they'll back off. You hope, Jennifer said. I know, Marcus corrected. I've dealt with the FBI for 20 years. They don't like being used. Once they figure out Richard fed them false information to harass an innocent person, they'll be angry. Might even start investigating Richard instead. Could turn in our favor. It was an optimistic take. Jennifer wanted to believe it, but she'd learned in the past few days that optimism was dangerous. That hoping for the best just set you up for worse disappointments. Jennifer's secure phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Impressive recovery. You're stronger than Tyler was. He would have quit by now. But you're still making mistakes. Still trusting the wrong people. Still walking into traps. How many more times will you fall before you learn? How many more disasters before you realize you can't win? I'm enjoying watching you try though. It's entertaining. RM. Richard. Taunting her. Letting her know he was watching. Reminding her that he was always 3 steps ahead. Jennifer showed the message to Victoria and Marcus. Both frowned. He's trying to get in your head, Victoria said. Trying to make you paranoid. Don't let him. But the message had already worked. Because Jennifer was paranoid. Was questioning everything. Everyone. What if Victoria was secretly working for Richard? What if Marcus was? What if everyone around her had been compromised? and she was the only one who didn't know. "I need to see my mother," Jennifer said suddenly. "Right now, I need to make sure she's okay." They drove to the safe house where Linda was staying. It was 6:30 a.m. when they arrived. The security guard at the door checked their IDs carefully before letting them in. Linda was awake, sitting in her wheelchair by the window, watching the sunrise. "Baby," Linda said when she saw Jennifer, "are you okay? I saw the news, saw what happened." Jennifer collapsed to her knees beside her mother's wheelchair and cried, let out all the fear and frustration and exhaustion she'd been holding in. Linda held her daughter, stroking her hair, making soothing sounds like when Jennifer was little and had nightmares. "I don't know if I can do this," Jennifer whispered. "Mom, I'm not strong enough. Not smart enough. Richard is destroying me, and I don't know how to stop him." "Then stop trying to beat him at his game," Linda said quietly. "Play your own game instead. Richard wants you to fight on his terms, to get caught up in his manipulations and schemes. Don't. Just do what you said you'd do. Help people. Run your foundation. Ignore him. Be so focused on your mission that his attacks can't touch you." "How?" Jennifer asked. "How do I ignore someone who's actively trying to destroy me?" "By remembering why you're doing this," Linda said. "Not to prove Richard wrong. Not to win some game. But to help kids who need it. To give opportunities that change lives. That's your real goal. That's what matters. Everything else is just noise." Jennifer wanted to believe her mother, wanted to think it was that simple. But she'd seen what Richard could do, how he twisted situations, how he made innocent things look guilty, how he destroyed people who opposed him. "Tyler Brooks couldn't ignore him," Jennifer said. "And Tyler died." "Tyler was alone," Linda pointed out. "You're not. You have me. You have Victoria. You have Marcus. You have security. You have people fighting for you. That's the difference." "Or Tyler had people too and they couldn't save him," Jennifer countered. Linda grabbed Jennifer's face between her hands. "Listen to me. You are not Tyler Brooks. You are my daughter, and you are stronger than you think, braver than you feel, more capable than you know. I raised you to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. So stand up, fight back, but do it smart. Do it on your terms. Don't let Richard Montgomery break you." Jennifer looked into her mother's eyes and saw absolute faith. Linda believed in her, completely, without reservation, and Jennifer realized she had a choice. She could give up, could return the money, and walk away, and live with the knowledge that she'd been too scared to help people who needed it. Or she could fight, could push through the fear and the setbacks and the disasters and prove that goodness was stronger than manipulation. "Okay," Jennifer said, standing up. "Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to launch the foundation today. Right now, we're going to start accepting applications. We're going to help the first batch of students immediately. We're going to show everyone that last night's arrest doesn't change anything." Victoria smiled. "That's the spirit. But Jennifer, we need to be strategic. Can't just throw open the doors. We need selection criteria, application processes, vetting procedures. This has to be legitimate and above board, or Richard will find ways to attack it." "How long will that take to set up?" Jennifer asked. "Normally, months," Marcus said. "But we can fast-track it. Have something operational in 2 weeks, if we work around the clock. Hire the right people. Cut through bureaucratic delays." 2 weeks, Jennifer repeated. "I can do 2 weeks. But Marcus, I want total transparency. Every dollar accounted for, every decision documented, every process open to scrutiny. I want this foundation to be so clean that even Richard can't find dirt on it." "That's the goal," Marcus agreed. "And Jennifer, I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to be exhausting. You'll be working 18-hour days, making hundreds of decisions, meeting with lawyers, accountants, advisors, potential staff members. You'll have no personal life, no downtime. It's going to consume you." "Good," Jennifer said. "I want to be busy, want to be focused on something productive instead of worrying about Richard's next move. Let's do this." They spent the rest of that day assembling a team. Victoria and Marcus had connections to foundation experts, educational consultants, nonprofit managers. By evening, they'd hired a executive director, a financial officer, a program coordinator, and an administrative assistant. All experienced professionals who understood the stakes and were willing to work fast. The foundation was given office space in a building Victoria owned, not fancy, but functional. 3 rooms with desks, computers, filing cabinets, everything they needed to start operating. Jennifer walked through the space that night, touching the furniture, reading the nameplates on the doors, trying to make it feel real. This was happening. She was actually doing this, starting an organization that would help hundreds of students over the coming years, making a real difference. Fulfilling the promise she'd made at that press conference. If she survived long enough to see it through. Jennifer's phone rang, her regular tracked phone. She answered without thinking. Jennifer Hayes? A woman's voice, smooth, professional. Yes, who's this? My name is Rebecca Patterson. I'm a producer for 60 Minutes. We'd like to do a segment on you, on your foundation, on what happened last night with the FBI. We think your story is compelling. Would you be interested in sitting down for an interview? Jennifer covered the phone and looked at Victoria and Marcus, mouthing, 60 Minutes wants to interview me. Victoria nodded enthusiastically. Marcus made a, we need to discuss this, gesture. Can I call you back? Jennifer asked Rebecca. I need to consult with my team. Of course, Rebecca said. But Jennifer, I want you to know, we're not interested in doing a hit piece. We want to tell your story fairly, let you explain what's really happening. This could be an opportunity to set the record straight with millions of viewers. I understand, Jennifer said. I'll be in touch. She hung up and looked at her advisors. Should I do it? Absolutely, Victoria said. 60 Minutes has huge reach, enormous credibility. If they do a fair segment, it could completely rehabilitate your reputation. And if they don't do a fair segment? Jennifer asked. If Richard gets to them somehow, influences the story, then it's a disaster, Marcus admitted. But Jennifer, you can't live in fear of Richard manipulating everything. At some point, you have to trust someone. Trust a process. Take a risk. Everything I've done so far has been a risk, Jennifer said. And every single one has blown up in my face. Because Richard has been controlling the situations, Victoria pointed out. Choosing the battles. Setting the traps. This time, you're choosing. You're taking the initiative. That changes the dynamic. Jennifer thought about it. About the opportunity to reach millions of people. To tell her side of the story. To show who she really was, instead of letting Richard's manipulations define her. It was tempting, but it was also terrifying. I'll do it, Jennifer decided, but I want to prepare, want to know every question they'll ask. Want to have perfect answers, want to be so well rehearsed that I can't be caught off guard. We'll prep you, Marcus promised. Do mock interviews, anticipate every angle. You'll be ready. Jennifer called Rebecca back and agreed to the interview. It was scheduled for 1 week from now, giving Jennifer just enough time to launch the foundation, start accepting applications, and have something positive to point to when she sat down with the cameras. The next week was a blur. Jennifer worked 18-hour days like Marcus had predicted, met with dozens of potential staff members, reviewed applications from students who'd already heard about the foundation and were desperate for help, made decisions about scholarship amounts, eligibility criteria, selection processes, gave interviews to smaller outlets to build momentum for the 60 Minutes piece, posted updates on social media showing the foundation's progress. And through it all, Richard was silent. No threatening texts. No manipulations. No attacks. Just quiet. Which somehow felt more ominous than his previous aggression. He's waiting, Victoria said when Jennifer mentioned it. Watching what you build. Looking for weaknesses. Planning his next move. Don't mistake silence for surrender. On the 6th day, Jennifer received the first completed scholarship application. A 17-year-old girl named Ashley from the Bronx. Single mother, worked 2 jobs while finishing high school. Dreamed of being a nurse, but couldn't afford college. Her essay about why she deserved the scholarship made Jennifer cry. This, Jennifer said to her team, holding up Ashley's application. This is why we're doing this. This girl right here. She represents thousands of kids who have potential but no path forward. We're going to give her that path. Give all of them that path. By the end of the week, They had 300 applications, far more than expected, far more than they could fully fund with just $50 million. Jennifer was going to have to make impossible choices about who to help and who to turn away. "We can't help everyone," Victoria said gently when Jennifer expressed frustration. "But we can help some. And those we help will go on to help others. That's how change works. Not all at once, but gradually, persistently, one person at a time." The night before the 60 Minutes interview, Jennifer couldn't sleep. She'd been prepped extensively, knew her talking points, had practiced answers to every conceivable question. But she was still nervous, still worried she'd say something wrong, something Richard could use against her. At 2 a.m., her secure phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. "Stop overthinking. Be yourself. Tell your truth. That's all you can do. You're ready for this." Jennifer typed back, "What if I'm not? What if I mess this up?" Victoria's response came immediately. "Then we deal with it. But Jennifer, you need to understand something. You've already won the most important battle. You didn't quit. Richard threw everything at you in the first week. FBI arrest, public humiliation, character assassination, and you're still here, still fighting, still trying to help people. That's victory. Tomorrow's interview is just details." Jennifer wanted to believe that, but she knew the interview mattered, knew it could make or break her foundation's credibility, knew millions of people would form opinions about her based on how she came across in that conversation. She finally fell asleep around 4 a.m., woke up at 7 to get ready. The interview was scheduled for 10 a.m. at the foundation's office. The 60 Minutes crew arrived early to set up lighting and cameras. Rebecca Patterson introduced herself in person. She seemed kind, genuine, but Jennifer had learned that appearances meant nothing. "Ready?" Rebecca asked, as Jennifer sat down in the chair they'd positioned for the interview. "As I'll ever be," Jennifer replied. The camera started rolling. Rebecca began with basic questions. "Tell me about yourself. How did this opportunity come to you? What are your goals for the foundation?" Jennifer answered smoothly. Drawing on all her preparation, she felt herself relaxing slightly. This wasn't so bad. Then Rebecca shifted gears. "Let's talk about the FBI arrest. You claim you were set up, but you did choose to meet with a convicted criminal in an abandoned warehouse in the middle of the night. That doesn't seem like good judgment for someone managing $50 million. Jennifer had prepared for this question. "You're absolutely right. It was poor judgment. I should have researched James Montgomery before agreeing to meet him. Should have insisted on a public location. Should have brought my attorney. I made mistakes because I'm new to this world. I'm learning. But poor judgment isn't the same as criminal intent. I met with James because I wanted to understand Richard Montgomery's character. Wanted to know who I was dealing with. That's due diligence, not conspiracy. But the FBI thought otherwise," Rebecca pressed. "They arrested you. Why would they do that if you were completely innocent?" "Because they received false information," Jennifer said. "Someone, and I have my suspicions about who, fed the FBI a story designed to make me look guilty. The FBI was used as a weapon against me. I don't blame them for that. They were doing their job based on the information they had, but that information was manipulated." "By Richard Montgomery?" Rebecca asked. "You're saying a billionaire philanthropist orchestrated a fake FBI arrest to discredit you?" "I'm saying powerful people don't like being questioned," Jennifer replied carefully. "I'm saying there are interests who would prefer I fail. I'm saying someone set me up. Whether that's Richard or someone else, I can't prove, but the timing is suspicious. The setup was too perfect, and the result benefited someone who wants to see me discredited." "That sounds like a conspiracy theory," Rebecca said. "It sounds like reality when you're challenging powerful people," Jennifer countered. "Look, I'm not asking anyone to believe me without evidence. I'm asking them to judge me by my actions. Look at what I'm doing with this foundation. Look at the students we're helping. Look at the transparency we've built into every process. If I'm corrupt, if I'm misusing money, if I'm the person some people claim I am, the evidence will emerge. But I don't think it will. Because I'm doing exactly what I said I would. Helping people. That's all." The interview continued for another hour. Rebecca asked about Jennifer's background, her mother's illness, her relationship with Richard, her plans for the future. Some questions were tough. Some were sympathetic. Jennifer couldn't tell how it would be edited, couldn't predict what narrative would emerge. When it was finally over, when the cameras stopped rolling and the crew started packing up, Rebecca approached Jennifer privately. "Off the record," Rebecca said quietly. "I believe you. I think you're in over your head, but I think you're genuinely trying to do good. I can't promise how this will be edited. I can't control the final product, but I'll fight for a fair portrayal. You have my word on that." "Thank you," Jennifer said, though she knew a producer's word meant nothing if the network wanted a different story. The 60-minute segment was scheduled to air in 3 weeks. 3 weeks of waiting to see if Jennifer had helped or hurt herself. 3 weeks of wondering if Rebecca would keep her word. 3 weeks of Richard plotting his next move. Jennifer spent those weeks working, launched the foundation officially, announced the first 10 scholarship recipients, including Ashley from the Bronx, held a small ceremony where the students received their award letters, and Jennifer got to see their tears of joy and relief. It was the most meaningful thing she'd ever done. Made all the stress and fear and danger almost worth it. Almost. The night before the 60-minute segment was set to air, Jennifer received a package at her apartment. No return address, just a small box wrapped in brown paper. Victoria's security team wanted to screen it for explosives, but Jennifer insisted on opening it herself. Inside was a DVD. No label, no note, just a blank disc. Jennifer put it in her laptop and pressed play. The video showed Tyler Brooks, alive, happy, talking to the camera about his foundation, about the students he was helping, about his gratitude to Richard Montgomery for the opportunity. The video was dated 6 months before Tyler died. Then the video cut to different footage. Tyler, looking stressed, exhausted, paranoid, talking about how things weren't what they seemed, how Richard was manipulating him, how he was trapped and didn't know how to get out. This footage was dated 1 week before Tyler's death. The video cut one more time, to newspaper headlines about Tyler's fatal accident, to police reports, to funeral announcements, to the systematic dismantling of Tyler's foundation after his death, to Richard Montgomery's statement expressing sadness at the tragedy and disappointment that Tyler had shown poor judgment in the weeks before his death. The video ended with a final message typed on a black screen. "You're following the same path. Making the same mistakes. Trusting the same people. You think you're smarter than Tyler was. You're not. You're just next. Stop now. Return the money. Walk away. Or end up like him. This is your only warning. A friend." Jennifer watched the DVD 3 times, trying to see if it was real or fabricated, trying to figure out who sent it and why, trying to decide if it was a genuine warning or another manipulation. She called Victoria, showed her the video. Victoria's face went pale. "This is either someone trying to help you," Victoria said, "or someone trying to scare you into quitting. I can't tell which." "What do I do?" Jennifer asked. "You keep going," Victoria said, "because if this is real, if Tyler really was murdered, the only way to honor his memory is to succeed where he failed. And if this is fake, if it's just Richard trying to terrorize you, giving up is exactly what he wants. Either way, quitting accomplishes nothing." "People keep telling me to keep going," Jennifer said. "But no one can promise me I won't end up dead like Tyler. No one can guarantee this doesn't end with me in a car accident or a convenient suicide or some other tragedy that benefits Richard." "You're right," Victoria said. "I can't promise that. Can't guarantee your safety. All I can promise is that if something happens to you, I'll make sure everyone knows Richard was responsible. I'll make sure your death isn't in vain. That's the only guarantee I can give." It wasn't comforting, but it was honest. And Jennifer appreciated honesty more than false reassurance. The 60-minute segment aired the next evening. Jennifer watched it with her mother, Victoria, Marcus, and her foundation team. The first few minutes were positive. Rebecca's intro was fair. The footage of the foundation's office looked professional. Jennifer's answers came across as thoughtful and sincere. Then the segment took a turn. Rebecca brought up Tyler Brooks, drew parallels between his situation and Jennifer's, interviewed FBI agents who expressed concerns about Jennifer's judgment, showed the warehouse where Jennifer was arrested, interviewed James Montgomery in prison, who claimed he was just trying to help Jennifer, but she'd rejected his advice. Wait, prison? Jennifer thought. James was supposed to be released. Why was he still locked up? The segment continued, showed Richard Montgomery in a brief interview, He expressed disappointment that his gift had caused Jennifer such trouble. Said he hoped she'd make better choices going forward. Said he was watching her progress with interest. Said he believed in second chances. He sounded reasonable, magnanimous, kind. Like a philanthropist, concerned about a young woman he tried to help. Like someone who had nothing to do with FBI arrests or setups or manipulation. The segment ended with Rebecca's conclusion. Jennifer Hayes says she's trying to do good. The evidence is mixed. She's launched a foundation that's already helping students. But questions remain about her judgment, her associations, her ability to handle the pressure and responsibility that comes with managing millions of dollars. Only time will tell if Jennifer Hayes is the philanthropic success story she claims to be, or another cautionary tale about money corrupting good intentions. The screen went black. Jennifer sat in stunned silence. That wasn't the fair portrayal Rebecca had promised. That was a hit piece disguised as balanced journalism. Rebecca sold you out, Marcus said bluntly. Someone got to her, either her producers or the network, or Richard himself. They turned your interview into an attack. But why? Jennifer asked. What did Richard gain from this? Doubt, Victoria said. He plants doubt in people's minds, makes them question you, makes them wonder if maybe you are in over your head, makes them think twice before supporting your foundation. It's subtle, effective, and very Richard. Jennifer's phone started buzzing. Messages from friends, colleagues, people she'd met in the past few weeks. Most were supportive, some were concerned, a few were critical. Everyone had an opinion about the 60-minute segment. Then a call came through. Unknown number. Jennifer almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Jennifer Hayes? A man's voice. Gruff. Unfamiliar. Yes, who's this? Someone who worked for Richard Montgomery 20 years ago. Someone who knows what he's really capable of. Someone who wants to help you before it's too late. I know about Tyler Brooks. I know how he really died. And I know you're next on Richard's list unless you do exactly what I say. Meet me tomorrow, 2 p.m. I'll text you the location. Come alone. Don't tell Victoria. Don't tell Marcus. Don't tell anyone. They're all compromised. I'm the only person you can trust now. Don't believe me? Check Victoria's bank account. See the deposit she got this morning. $500,000 from an offshore account. Ask yourself why Richard's enemy suddenly got paid by an anonymous source. Then decide if you still trust her. The line went dead. Jennifer looked at Victoria, at the woman who'd been helping her, protecting her, guiding her through this nightmare. The woman who'd quit working for Richard, who'd risked everything to help Jennifer fight back. Was Victoria working for Richard all along? Was this entire thing an elaborate setup with Victoria playing both sides? Was Jennifer about to make another devastating mistake by continuing to trust her? Or was this phone call just another manipulation, another attempt to isolate Jennifer, to make her paranoid and alone? Jennifer had no way to know. No way to tell truth from lies anymore. Richard had twisted reality so thoroughly that Jennifer couldn't trust her own judgment, couldn't trust anyone around her, couldn't be certain of anything. What's wrong? Victoria asked, seeing Jennifer's face. Who was that? Jennifer wanted to ask about the bank deposit, wanted to demand the truth. But if Victoria was really working for Richard, showing her cards now would be dangerous. Jennifer needed to be smart, strategic, needed to figure out who her real allies were before making accusations. Just a reporter, Jennifer lied. Wanting a follow-up interview. Did you agree? Victoria asked. I said I'd think about it, Jennifer replied, trying to keep her voice steady. She excused herself and went to the bathroom, pulled out her secure phone, and searched for ways to check someone's bank account. Found nothing useful. You couldn't just look up someone's financial records, not without their permission or a warrant. But the caller had been specific. $500,000, this morning, offshore account. If it was true, if Victoria really had received that money, where did it come from? Who sent it? And why? Jennifer had 20 hours until the meeting tomorrow. 20 hours to decide if she trusted Victoria enough to tell her about the call. 20 hours to figure out if she was about to make the smartest or stupidest decision of her life. 20 hours to determine if everyone around her was lying, or if Richard was just that good at making her doubt reality. She looked at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the fear, the uncertainty. This was what Richard wanted. to break her psychologically, to make her question everything, to turn her into a paranoid, isolated mess who couldn't function. She couldn't let him win, but she also couldn't blindly trust people who might be betraying her. Jennifer took a deep breath, made a decision. She would go to tomorrow's meeting, would hear what this mysterious caller had to say, would gather information, and then, based on what she learned, she'd figure out who to trust. It was risky, possibly stupid, but staying paralyzed by doubt was even more dangerous. Jennifer walked back out to the living room where her team was still discussing the 60 Minutes segment. She smiled, participated in the conversation, acted normal, but inside, she was already planning, already thinking 3 steps ahead like Richard always did. Because Jennifer Hayes was learning, was adapting, was becoming someone tougher and smarter than the naive waitress who'd accepted $50 million 2 weeks ago. She was becoming someone who might actually survive this. The question was, at what cost? What would be left of Jennifer Hayes when this war was over? Would she even recognize the person she'd become? But those were questions for later. Right now, she had a secret meeting to prepare for, evidence to gather, allies to test, and a billionaire to outsmart. Tomorrow would reveal the truth, or at least some version of it. In Richard Montgomery's world, truth was always relative, always negotiable, always just another weapon to be used. Jennifer was about to learn how to use it herself. Jennifer didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing through scenarios. If Victoria was really on Richard's payroll, then everything Jennifer had done for the past 2 weeks had been orchestrated. Every decision, every strategy, every supposedly protective measure, all of it designed to lead her exactly where Richard wanted her to go. But if Victoria was innocent, if the phone call was just another manipulation, then walking into tomorrow's meeting alone would be the mistake that got her killed. At 5 a.m., Jennifer gave up on sleep. She got up quietly, careful not to wake her mother who was sleeping in the next room, went to her laptop and started researching. Tried to find any connection between Victoria Sterling and Richard Montgomery beyond their professional relationship, searched for offshore accounts, financial transactions, anything that would prove or disprove the caller's claims. She found nothing, which proved nothing. If Victoria was smart enough to hide her involvement, she'd be smart enough to cover her tracks. Jennifer's secure phone buzzed. A text with an address. An old church in Queens. Abandoned for years according to a quick search. Definitely not the kind of place you'd go if you valued your safety. But also not the kind of place Richard would choose if he wanted to make Jennifer's death look like an accident. Too obvious. Too suspicious. Unless that was the point. Unless Richard wanted this to look like a setup. Wanted Jennifer to walk into an obvious trap because she was desperate and stupid and had no other options. Jennifer rubbed her temples. This was what Richard did. Made you question everything. Made every choice feel dangerous. Made paranoia seem like the only rational response. At 7 a.m., Linda woke up and found Jennifer sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by printouts and notes, looking like she hadn't slept in days. "Baby, what's going on?" Linda asked, wheeling herself closer. "You look terrible." Jennifer told her mother everything. About the phone call, the claims about Victoria, the meeting today, the impossible choice between trusting people who might be betraying her or going alone into potential danger. Linda listened silently. Then she said something Jennifer didn't expect. "Take me with you." "What?" "No, absolutely not. If this is dangerous, then you'll need someone watching your back," Linda interrupted. "Someone you know you can trust. Someone who has nothing to gain from betraying you. That's me, Jennifer. I'm the only person in your life who you can be absolutely certain isn't working for Richard. You're in a wheelchair, Mom. If something goes wrong, then we'll deal with it together," Linda said firmly. "But Jennifer, you can't keep walking into these situations alone. You need backup. Real backup. Not people who might be compromised. Me. That's your backup." It was a terrible idea, putting her sick mother in potential danger. But Linda was right about one thing. She was the only person Jennifer could completely trust. The only one who had no possible connection to Richard. The only ally whose loyalty was absolute. "Okay," Jennifer said, "but we're bringing the security team, the ones Victoria hired. Or wait, if Victoria's compromised, are they compromised too? You see the problem, Linda said. Everyone is suspect now. Everyone could be working for Richard. That's why it has to be just us, just family, no one else. Jennifer spent the next few hours preparing. She told Victoria she needed the day off, personal time, to decompress after the 60 minutes disaster. Victoria seemed concerned but didn't push, which made Jennifer suspicious. Or was that the paranoia talking? She couldn't tell anymore. At noon, Jennifer and Linda left the apartment. Jennifer had borrowed a friend's car, something untraceable, not connected to her. They drove to Queens, taking a circuitous route, watching for tails. Jennifer had no idea if she was being followed. Had no training in this, was just copying what she'd seen in movies and hoping it was enough. They arrived at the abandoned church at 1:30 p.m., 30 minutes early, enough time to assess the situation before committing. The building was exactly as Jennifer had imagined. Old stone, broken windows, overgrown yard. The kind of place horror movies were filmed in. This is a terrible idea, Jennifer muttered. Most brave things are, Linda replied. Park where we can see the entrance. We'll wait and watch who else shows up. They sat in the car, watching. At 1:45, a vehicle pulled up. A beat-up sedan. A man got out. Late 50s, maybe early 60s. Gray hair. Worn clothes. He looked around nervously. Then entered the church. That's our mystery caller, Jennifer said. I think, do I go in? Not yet, Linda said. Let's see if anyone else arrives. If this is a trap, there'll be more people. They waited. 2 p.m. came and went. No one else appeared. The man came to the church entrance and looked around, clearly waiting for Jennifer. She was now 5 minutes late. Okay, Jennifer said. I'm going in. Mom, if I'm not out in 20 minutes, call 911. Call Marcus. Call everyone. Tell them where I am. Be careful, Linda said, gripping Jennifer's hand tight. Jennifer got out of the car and walked toward the church. The man saw her coming and relaxed slightly. He gestured for her to come inside. Jennifer took a deep breath and stepped through the broken doorway into the dim interior. The church was gutted, pews gone, altar removed, just an empty stone shell with years of decay and graffiti. The man stood in what used to be the center aisle. He looked tired, scared, like someone who'd been running for a long time and was almost out of strength. Jennifer Hayes, he said. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. Who are you? Jennifer demanded, staying near the door in case she needed to run. My name is Peter Walsh. I worked for Richard Montgomery 23 years ago. I was his business partner, his friend, until I learned what he was really doing, what he was really planning, and I tried to stop him, tried to expose him. He destroyed me for it, took everything, my career, my reputation, my family. I've been in hiding ever since, living on cash, moving constantly, surviving, waiting for someone brave enough to stand up to him. Why should I believe you? Jennifer asked. For all I know, you work for Richard. This is just another setup. I can prove who I am, Peter said, pulling out a worn wallet. He showed Jennifer an old driver's license. Peter Walsh. An address from 23 years ago. Business cards from a company Jennifer recognized as Richard's original firm. Photographs of Peter with a younger Richard, both smiling, both looking successful. This proves you knew Richard, Jennifer said. Not that you're on my side. I know things about him, Peter said. Things no one else knows. Things he's spent decades hiding. I know about the experiments, the test subjects, the pattern of people dying who get in his way. I know because I helped him start it. I was part of it. Until I realized what we were really doing. Until I understood that Richard wasn't trying to prove a theory. He was trying to justify his own corruption. Was trying to create evidence that everyone is as broken as he is. Tell me about Victoria Sterling, Jennifer said. The woman who's been helping me. Is she working for Richard? Peter's expression darkened. Victoria is complicated. She's not working for Richard directly, but she's not entirely free from him either. Richard has leverage over her. Her daughter, Emily, the one who was in a car accident. That wasn't an accident, and Victoria knows it. Richard can hurt Emily anytime he wants. So Victoria walks a tightrope. She helps you genuinely, because she wants to stop Richard. But if Richard pushes hard enough, If he threatens Emily seriously enough, Victoria will choose her daughter over you. She'll betray you to keep Emily safe. Not because she wants to, because she has to. How do you know this? Jennifer asked. Because Richard did the same thing to me, Peter said. 23 years ago, when I tried to expose him, he went after my family, my wife, my kids, made it clear that if I didn't disappear, if I didn't stay silent, they'd be hurt. So I ran. I've been running ever since. Living with the guilt that I could have stopped him and didn't. That I let him continue destroying people because I was too scared to sacrifice my family. What about the $500,000? Jennifer asked. The deposit in Victoria's account. Who sent that? I did, Peter said, surprising Jennifer. From an offshore account I've had for years. Money I saved before Richard destroyed me. I sent it to Victoria as a test. Wanted to see if she'd report it. If she'd tell you about mysterious money appearing in her account. If she'd question where it came from. She didn't. Which means either she's hiding things from you, or Richard has taught her not to question suspicious financial activity. Either way, it's a red flag. Why would you test her like that? Jennifer demanded. Why not just tell me directly that she can't be trusted? Because you wouldn't have believed me, Peter said. You needed to discover it yourself, needed to have doubts, needed to start questioning everyone. That's the only way you survive, Richard, by trusting no one completely, by assuming everyone has an angle, by being as paranoid as he is. Jennifer felt sick. So, I'm completely alone. Everyone around me is either compromised or potentially compromised. I have no real allies. You have one, Peter said. Me. I have nothing left to lose. My family is grown and scattered. They think I'm dead. My life is over already. All I have left is a chance to stop Richard. To make up for my cowardice 23 years ago. Let me help you, Jennifer. Let me be the one person you can absolutely trust because I gain nothing from betraying you. Except Richard could pay you, Jennifer pointed out. Could offer you your old life back. Could promise to leave your family alone if you turn on me. Richard would never honor that deal, Peter said, and I'd never believe he would. I've seen what he does to people who betray him. I'd be dead within a week. No, Jennifer. I'm on your side because it's my only option. Because helping you hurt Richard is the closest I'll ever get to redemption. Jennifer studied Peter carefully, looked for signs of deception, signs of manipulation, found only exhaustion and regret and desperate determination. If I trust you, Jennifer said slowly, what happens? What can you actually do to help me? I can tell you Richard's real plan, Peter said, the thing he hasn't revealed yet. The endgame that makes all of this make sense. Jennifer? The foundation? The scholarships? The public philanthropy? That's not what this is really about. Richard doesn't care if you help students. Doesn't care if you succeed or fail at running a foundation. What he cares about is something else. Something bigger. And you're walking right into it without realizing what's happening. Tell me, Jennifer demanded, what's the real plan? Peter glanced at the door nervously. Not here. Too exposed. Too dangerous. Come with me. I have a safe place. Documents, evidence, everything you need to understand what Richard is really doing. Everything you need to fight back properly. I'm not going anywhere with you until you tell me something concrete, Jennifer said. Some piece of information that proves you're legitimate, that proves you really know Richard's secrets. Peter was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Tyler Brooks didn't die in a car accident. He was drugged by a woman named Angela Martinez. She was working for Richard, got close to Tyler, made him trust her. Then one night, she gave him something that impaired his judgment, made him dizzy, confused, sent him out driving in that condition. The accident was inevitable. Angela disappeared the next day, moved to Costa Rica on money Richard paid her. She's still there, living well. If you can find her, if you can make her talk, she'd be the evidence you need to prove Richard killed Tyler. Jennifer's mind raced. This was specific, detailed, verifiable. If Peter was telling the truth, if Angela Martinez really existed and really was in Costa Rica, that was huge. That was the proof everyone needed that Richard was a killer. How do I find Angela? Jennifer asked. I have her information, Peter said. Address, bank accounts, everything. But Jennifer, you can't go after her yet. Not until you understand the bigger picture. Not until you know what Richard's really trying to accomplish. Going after Angela now would tip him off, would make him adjust his plans. You need to be patient. Need to learn everything before making your move. Jennifer heard a car engine outside. Another vehicle had arrived. Peter's expression changed to panic. "Did you bring someone?" he hissed. "Just my mother," Jennifer said. "She's in the car. She's—" "Get down!" Peter shouted, diving behind a piece of broken stone. Jennifer dropped to the floor instinctively. Heard footsteps. Multiple people entering the church. Heard voices calling out. "Jennifer Hayes, FBI. Show yourself." Oh God, not again. Not another setup. Not another arrest. But how did the FBI know she was here? She'd told no one. Unless her phone was tracked. Unless someone had been following her. Unless— Victoria. Victoria knew Jennifer had taken the day off, knew something was wrong, had maybe tracked her phone, had called the FBI to rescue her, or to set her up. Again, Jennifer stood up slowly, hands raised. "I'm here. I'm not armed. I'm not doing anything illegal." 3 FBI agents emerged from the shadows. Jennifer recognized one of them, Agent Winters, the same woman who'd interrogated her 2 weeks ago. "Miss Hayes," Agent Winters said, her voice cold, "we received a tip that you were meeting with Peter Walsh, a fugitive wanted for questioning in connection with several suspicious deaths 23 years ago. Is that true?" Jennifer looked at Peter, who was now being handcuffed by the other agents. He looked at her with desperation. Mouthed the words, "Don't trust them." "I don't know who I was meeting with," Jennifer said carefully. "Someone called me, said they had information about Richard Montgomery. I came to investigate." "Without telling your lawyer?" Agent Winters asked. "Without security? Without any backup? That's either incredibly naive or incredibly guilty, Miss Hayes. Which is it?" "I'm trying to understand what's happening to me," Jennifer said. "I'm trying to figure out who's manipulating me and why. That's not a crime." "Meeting with a fugitive is a crime," Agent Winters corrected. "Especially when that fugitive is a suspect in multiple murders." Peter Walsh was Richard Montgomery's partner 23 years ago. When several of their business associates died under suspicious circumstances, Peter disappeared. "We've been looking for him ever since, and you just led us right to him. So I have to ask, Jennifer, why were you meeting with a wanted criminal? What did he tell you? And what were you planning to do with that information?" Jennifer's mind was spinning. Peter was wanted for murders, but he'd said Richard was the one who killed people. Said Richard had destroyed him. Was that all a lie? Or was this another frame job? Another situation where Richard had arranged for an innocent man to look guilty? "I want my lawyer," Jennifer said for the second time in 2 weeks. "I'm not answering any questions without Marcus Webb present." Agent Winters studied her for a long moment. Then she said, "You're not under arrest. Yet. But Miss Hayes, you need to understand something. You're in way over your head. You're being used by people on both sides of this situation. Richard Montgomery is not a good person, but neither is Peter Walsh. They're both dangerous, they're both liars, and you're caught in the middle of a war that started long before you were born. My advice? Give back the money. Walk away. Let us handle Richard and Peter. Save yourself while you still can." "I can't do that," Jennifer said. "I've already started the foundation. Already committed to helping students. Already promised to see this through." "Then you're going to end up like Tyler Brooks," Agent Winters said bluntly. "Dead, used, forgotten. Is that really what you want?" "I want the truth," Jennifer said. "About Richard, about Peter, about Tyler, about all of it. And I want justice for Tyler if he was really murdered. Don't you want that too? Isn't that your job?" "My job is complicated by the fact that Richard Montgomery is a billionaire with connections to powerful people," Agent Winters said. "My job is frustrated by the fact that Peter Walsh is a fugitive who's been hiding for 23 years and probably won't talk even under interrogation. My job is made impossible by naive young women who think they can solve mysteries that trained investigators can't. So no, Jennifer, what I want doesn't matter. What matters is keeping you alive long enough to see reason." The agents took Peter away. Jennifer was released, but warned that she was still under investigation, that meeting with fugitives was suspicious behavior, that she needed to be very careful about her choices going forward. Jennifer walked back to the car, where Linda was frantic. "Baby, Are you okay? I saw the FBI arrive. I called Marcus, like you said. He's on his way. I'm fine, Jennifer said, though she was shaking. Mom, I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know who to believe. Peter said he wanted to help me. Said Richard was the real killer. But the FBI says Peter is the murderer. Someone's lying, and I can't tell who. Maybe they both are, Linda said quietly. Maybe Richard and Peter are both dangerous, both guilty of something. Maybe you're caught between two criminals who are using you for their own purposes. It was a disturbing thought, but it made sense. Why did Jennifer have to choose between trusting Richard or trusting Peter? Why couldn't they both be monsters? Why couldn't she be the pawn in a war between two terrible people? Marcus arrived 20 minutes later. He was furious. Jennifer, what were you thinking? Meeting with a fugitive? Alone? Without telling anyone? Do you have any idea how bad this looks? I was trying to get information, Jennifer protested. Trying to understand what's happening. By walking into obvious traps, Marcus shouted. By making decision after decision that makes you look guilty. Jennifer, I can't protect you if you keep doing this. Can't defend you if you keep giving the FBI ammunition to use against you. Then maybe I don't need protecting, Jennifer said, her own anger rising. Maybe I need to stop being defensive and start being offensive. Stop reacting to Richard's moves and start making my own. Stop worrying about looking guilty and start focusing on exposing the truth. The truth doesn't matter if you're dead, Marcus said bluntly. Or in prison. Or so thoroughly discredited that no one will listen to you. Jennifer, you need to slow down. Think strategically. Stop making impulsive choices. Every choice I make is impulsive because I don't have time to think, Jennifer shot back. Richard keeps pushing. Keeps attacking, keeps forcing me to react. I don't have the luxury of slowing down and being strategic. I have to move fast or get crushed. They argued for another 10 minutes, Marcus insisting Jennifer needed to be more careful, Jennifer insisting she needed to be more aggressive, neither convincing the other. Finally, exhausted, they agreed to disagree and Marcus left. Jennifer drove her mother back to the safe house. They were both silent, both processing. Both trying to make sense of a situation that made less sense every day. That evening, Jennifer's secure phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. We need to talk. In person. Tonight. I know you've been questioning my loyalty. I know someone told you about the money in my account. I can explain everything, but not over phone, not over text. Meet me at my office. Midnight. Come alone or don't come at all. Your choice whether to trust me. Jennifer showed the message to Linda. What do I do? After everything today, after Peter's warnings, after the FBI arrest, do I trust Victoria or not? I don't know, baby, Linda admitted. But I know you can't keep living in suspicion, can't keep questioning everyone. At some point, you have to make a choice. Either Victoria is on your side, or she's not. Meet with her, hear her out, then decide based on what your gut tells you. Jennifer thought about it. Victoria had been there from the beginning, had warned her about Richard, had helped set up the foundation, had protected Jennifer multiple times, but she'd also not mentioned the $500,000 deposit, had not been completely transparent, had maybe been feeding information to Richard while pretending to help Jennifer. At 11:30 p.m., Jennifer made her decision. She was going to meet Victoria, was going to hear her explanation, was going to look her in the eye and figure out once and for all whether Victoria Sterling was an ally or an enemy. She arrived at Victoria's office building at 11:50. The place was empty at this hour, just security guards who waved Jennifer through after checking her ID. She took the elevator to the 5th floor, walked down the quiet hallway to Victoria's office. The door was slightly open, light spilling out. Jennifer pushed the door open and stepped inside. Victoria was there, standing by her desk, but she wasn't alone. Sitting in the chairs across from her desk were two people Jennifer recognized. And one she didn't. James Montgomery, Richard's brother. The convicted criminal who was supposed to be in prison but was somehow here instead. Agent Barbara Winters, the FBI agent who'd arrested Jennifer twice now, who'd warned her to walk away, who'd said her job was complicated by Richard's power. And a woman Jennifer had never seen before, mid-40s, elegant, with cold eyes and a calculating expression. Hello, Jennifer, Victoria said. I'm glad you came. We have a lot to discuss, and not much time. Because in about 6 hours, Richard Montgomery is going to make his final move. The one he's been building towards since the moment he gave you that money. The move that will either destroy you completely or give you the opening you need to destroy him first. But you can't fight what you don't understand, so sit down. Let us tell you what's really been happening. Let us explain the game you've been playing without knowing the rules. And then you can decide what to do next. Jennifer stood frozen in the doorway. Every instinct screamed to run. This was a trap, an ambush. Too many suspicious people in one room. Too convenient, too organized. But curiosity and desperation kept her feet planted. Because Victoria was right about one thing. Jennifer couldn't fight what she didn't understand, and she was tired of being in the dark. Tired of making decisions based on incomplete information. Tired of being reactive instead of proactive. "Who is she?" Jennifer asked, pointing to the unknown woman. "My name is Catherine Pierce," the woman said. "I'm Richard Montgomery's ex-wife. The woman he was supposed to marry 25 years ago before his brother James allegedly slept with me. Except that never happened. James never touched me. Richard made it up, spread the lie, destroyed James's reputation and mine. Because Richard needed everyone to think he was the victim. Needed people to believe his brother betrayed him. Needed a origin story for his twisted theory about human nature. I've spent 25 years trying to expose the truth. Now, with your help, I finally can." Jennifer's head was spinning. "I don't understand. Why are you all here? Why now? What's happening in 6 hours?" "Richard's documentary," Victoria said. "The one he's been filming secretly. The one that documents your entire journey from waitress to philanthropist. The one that will be released tomorrow morning on every major platform. The one that will either make you a hero or destroy you completely, depending on how Richard has edited it. We've seen early footage. It's damning. Richard has twisted every moment, every choice, every interaction. Made you look corrupt, greedy, incompetent. He's going to use the documentary to prove his theory. To show that giving money to good people doesn't work. That everyone becomes what he is eventually. And the world will believe him because the footage looks convincing." "How do you know about this documentary?" Jennifer demanded. "Because I've been working both sides," Victoria admitted. "Richard thinks I'm still loyal to him. Thinks I'm helping you while reporting everything back to him. He trusted me enough to show me the documentary. To get my legal opinion on whether it exposes him to liability, I told him it was fine. Told him to release it. And then I told James and Catherine and Agent Winters so we could prepare a counterattack." "I don't work for Richard," Agent Winters said. "I work for the FBI. But I've been investigating Richard Montgomery for 3 years, building a case against him, using you as bait to draw him out, to make him confident enough to reveal himself. I'm sorry for the arrests, sorry for making you think I was against you. But I needed Richard to believe I was his asset. Needed him to trust that I'd keep pressuring you on his behalf. Now he's confident. Overconfident. He's going to release that documentary and think he's won. And that's when we strike." "Strike how?" Jennifer asked. "With the truth," Catherine said. "With evidence we've been gathering for decades. With Peter Walsh's testimony. With Angela Martinez's confession. With James's testimony about Richard's real history. With footage of our own showing what Richard's really been doing. We're going to release a counter-documentary. Our version of events. 2 hours after Richard releases his, we're going to systematically dismantle every lie, every manipulation, every piece of twisted evidence. We're going to destroy Richard Montgomery's reputation so thoroughly that he'll never recover." "And you need me to do what exactly?" Jennifer asked. "We need you to keep doing what you're doing," Victoria said. "Keep running the foundation. Keep helping students. Keep being visible and good and obviously philanthropic. Because when Richard's documentary drops and the world sees his version of you, we need the real you to be undeniable. We need living proof that his theory is wrong, that you didn't become corrupt, that given opportunity and resources, you chose goodness. You're our evidence. Jennifer, you're the counter-argument to everything Richard believes. What if I'm not good enough?" Jennifer asked quietly. "What if I've made too many mistakes? What if the real me, not Richard's version but the actual me, isn't as admirable as you need me to be? Then we're all screwed." James said bluntly, "But I don't think you are. I've been watching you for 2 weeks, Jennifer. watched how you handled every crisis, every attack, every setback. You kept going, kept trying to help people, even when it would have been easier to quit. That's not corruption, that's character. That's what we're betting on. Jennifer looked at each person in the room, trying to decide if this was real, if they were really offering her a way to win, or if this was the most elaborate trap yet, the final manipulation before Richard destroyed her completely. How do I know you're telling the truth? Jennifer asked. How do I know this isn't just Richard using all of you to feed me false hope before crushing me? You don't, Victoria admitted. You can't know, not for certain, but Jennifer, you have to make a choice. Either trust that we're on your side and work with us to take down Richard, or walk away right now. Give back the money, disappear, let Richard win. Those are your only options. There's no middle ground, no safe path. Just all in or all out. Jennifer thought about Tyler Brooks, about the young man who'd been in this exact position, who'd trusted the wrong people, who'd made the wrong choice, who'd ended up dead because he couldn't tell truth from lies. But Jennifer also thought about the students, about Ashley and the other 9 scholarship recipients, about the 300 applications sitting in the foundation office, about the lives she could change if she survived this, about the difference she could make if she was brave enough to keep fighting. I'm in, Jennifer said. Tell me the plan. Tell me everything. Tell me how we destroy Richard Montgomery. They spent the next 4 hours planning. Victoria laid out the timeline. Richard's documentary would drop at 6 a.m. tomorrow. By 8 a.m., the counter-documentary would be released. By noon, a press conference would be held with Jennifer, James, Catherine, and Agent Winters. By evening, federal charges would be filed against Richard for Tyler Brooks's murder, based on Angela Martinez's testimony that the FBI had secured 3 days ago. Wait, Jennifer said. You already have Angela's confession? So why did Peter Walsh tell me I needed to find her? Because Peter is working for Richard, Agent Winters said. He's not a fugitive, he's a plant. Richard sent him to feed you false information, to make you distrust Victoria, to make you do something stupid like go after Angela yourself, which would have tipped Richard off that we'd found her. Peter's entire story was designed to sabotage our investigation. So the church meeting was a trap, Jennifer said. Yes and no, Agent Winters replied. We knew about it because we're tracking Peter. We arrested him to protect you from him, but also to maintain our cover, to make Richard think we're still on his side. Peter's been released already. He's reporting back to Richard right now that he succeeded in making you doubt Victoria. Richard thinks he's won, thinks he's isolated you, thinks you're vulnerable. He's wrong. Jennifer felt exhausted. Every person was playing multiple roles. Every interaction had hidden meanings. Every conversation was a performance. How did anyone keep track of this? How did people live in this world of constant deception? When this is over, Jennifer said, when Richard is in prison or destroyed or whatever happens to him, I want out. I want a normal life. I want to run the foundation without worrying about being murdered. Can you promise me that? If we win, Victoria said carefully, if Richard goes down hard enough, yes, you'll be safe. The foundation will thrive. You'll have your normal life. But if we lose, if any part of this plan fails, we're all going to prison or worse. Richard will make sure of it. So we have to be perfect. Can't make any mistakes. Can't give him any openings. Are you ready for that kind of pressure? I've been living with that pressure for 2 weeks, Jennifer said. What's one more day? They finished planning around 4 a.m. Jennifer was given a script for tomorrow's press conference, talking points for media interviews, specific instructions for how to respond to Richard's documentary. She was to watch it when it dropped, was to live tweet her reactions, was to show genuine emotion, genuine hurt, genuine determination, was to be herself but amplified, performing authenticity for an audience of millions. Get some sleep, Victoria said as Jennifer prepared to leave. Tomorrow is going to be the hardest day of your life. You'll need your strength. Jennifer laughed bitterly. Every day for the past 2 weeks has been the hardest day of my life. Why should tomorrow be different? Because tomorrow you fight back, Catherine said. Tomorrow you stop being Richard's victim and become his worst nightmare. Tomorrow you prove that one good person can beat one evil billionaire. That's different. Jennifer went home, crawled into bed beside her mother who was already sleeping, closed her eyes, and tried to rest. But her mind kept racing, kept imagining tomorrow, kept preparing for battle. At 6 a.m., Jennifer's phone alarm went off. She silenced it immediately and opened her laptop, went to the streaming platform Victoria had specified, and there it was. Richard Montgomery's documentary, The Corruption Experiment: How Money Destroys Goodness. Jennifer took a deep breath and pressed play. The documentary opened with Richard talking directly to camera, explaining his theory, his belief that money corrupts everyone, his conviction that human goodness is just poverty in disguise. He looked thoughtful, philosophical, reasonable, like someone genuinely trying to understand human nature. Then the documentary shifted to Jennifer, showed her working at the diner. Included footage Jennifer hadn't known existed. Hidden cameras in the diner apparently, showing her at her worst. Tired, frustrated, snapping at a customer who was being rude, complaining to a coworker about how unfair life was, looking and sounding like someone resentful of her circumstances. The documentary included audio of Jennifer's conversation with Richard when he'd first offered the money, but it was edited, made Jennifer sound greedy, made her acceptance of the money seem calculating instead of shocked, made the whole interaction feel transactional instead of transformational. Then came the footage of Jennifer spending money on her mother's treatments, yes, but the documentary made it look excessive, showed numbers without context, made $50,000 for a week of care look ridiculous, made Jennifer look like someone who was wasting money on unnecessary luxury treatments instead of someone desperately trying to save her mother's life. The documentary showed Jennifer meeting with James Montgomery, but edited to make James look like a mentor Jennifer had sought out. Made it seem like Jennifer had intentionally connected with a convicted criminal for advice on how to hide money, how to avoid scrutiny, how to look good while being corrupt. The documentary showed the FBI arrests, but framed them as evidence that Jennifer was being investigated for real crimes. Not as harassment or setups, but as legitimate law enforcement responding to legitimate suspicions. The documentary even had interviews, people who claimed to know Jennifer, former co-workers from the diner saying she'd always been lazy, always looking for shortcuts, always complaining about not having money, making Jennifer sound like someone who'd been waiting for an opportunity like this, someone who'd always been corrupt and just needed resources to reveal it. By the end of the hour-long documentary, Jennifer looked terrible. Looked exactly like what Richard wanted to prove. A seemingly good person who'd been corrupted by wealth, who'd made poor choices, who'd associated with criminals, who'd wasted money on herself, who'd failed the test. Jennifer felt sick watching it, felt angry, felt violated that Richard had been documenting her entire life without permission, had twisted everything she'd done into something ugly. But she also felt determined, because now she understood what she was fighting against, understood the narrative Richard had constructed, understood exactly what she needed to dismantle. At 8 a.m., the counter-documentary dropped. Jennifer watched it with Linda, both of them crying, within the first 10 minutes. This version told the truth, showed the full, unedited conversations, included context for every financial decision, interviewed the students Jennifer had helped, who spoke about how the scholarships had changed their lives, included testimony from Tyler Brooks's family about how he'd been manipulated and murdered, showed evidence of Richard's decades of crimes, his frauds, his manipulations, his systematic destruction of anyone who opposed him. The counter-documentary included Angela Martinez's confession, the woman speaking directly to camera about how Richard had paid her to get close to Tyler, how she'd drugged him, how she'd sent him out to drive knowing he'd crash, how she'd lived with the guilt for 3 years before finally agreeing to testify. The counter-documentary showed James Montgomery's testimony, his brother speaking about Richard's real history, how Richard had been the one who embezzled, who lied, who destroyed their partnership, how Richard had spent 15 years making James look like the villain to hide his own crimes. The counter-documentary showed Catherine Pierce explaining how Richard had used her as a prop, how he'd made up the affair with James to create a victim narrative, how he'd manipulated everyone's perception of events to make himself look sympathetic when he was actually calculating and cruel. And the counter-documentary ended with Jennifer, the real Jennifer, unedited, talking about her journey, her fears, her determination, her commitment to helping people regardless of what Richard threw at her, looking directly at the camera and saying, "I'm not perfect, I've made mistakes, but I'm trying. I'm fighting, and I'm not going to let one evil person convince the world that goodness doesn't exist. I'm proof that it does. That given opportunity, people choose to help others. That money doesn't corrupt everyone. That Richard Montgomery is wrong." By noon, both documentaries had been viewed millions of times. The internet was exploding with debate. Team Richard versus Team Jennifer. People arguing about who was telling the truth. About whether money corrupted people or revealed character. About whether Jennifer was a hero or a fool. The press conference was scheduled for 1 p.m. Jennifer arrived at the venue, a hotel conference room, to find it packed. Every major media outlet. Hundreds of reporters. Cameras everywhere. This was bigger than anything Jennifer had imagined. She sat at a table with James, Catherine, Agent Winters, and Victoria. Marcus stood off to the side, ready to intervene if needed. Linda was in the front row, her wheelchair positioned where Jennifer could see her. Victoria spoke first, outlined the evidence against Richard, explained how he'd been running corruption experiments for years, how Tyler Brooks had been murdered, how Jennifer had been targeted but survived because she'd been too good, too stubborn, too brave to break. Agent Winters spoke next, announced that federal charges were being filed against Richard Montgomery for conspiracy to commit murder in Tyler Brooks's death, announced that a grand jury had been convened, that Richard would be arrested within hours. James spoke next, told his story, about his brother's betrayal, about 25 years of being painted as the villain, about finally getting a chance to tell the truth. Catherine spoke next, about the lies, the manipulation, the systematic destruction of everyone who opposed Richard. Then, it was Jennifer's turn. She looked out at the sea of faces, at the cameras broadcasting this moment to millions of people, at her mother in the front row, at Victoria beside her, at this impossible situation she'd somehow ended up in. And Jennifer spoke from her heart. 2 weeks ago, I was nobody, a waitress, struggling to survive. Then Richard Montgomery walked into my life and offered me $50 million. I thought it was a miracle. Turns out it was a test, a trap, an experiment to prove I'd become corrupt. But I didn't. I used that money to help people, to start a foundation, to give scholarships to students who deserve opportunities. I made mistakes, trusted the wrong people sometimes, made poor choices under pressure, but I never stopped trying to do good, never stopped caring about people, never let Richard break me, and that's what I want everyone to understand. Money doesn't make you corrupt, it reveals who you already are. Richard is corrupt because that's who he's always been. I'm still trying to be good because that's who I've always been. And I'm going to keep trying, keep fighting, keep helping people, no matter what happens next, because that's what goodness is, not perfection, just persistence, just showing up every day and choosing to care. That's all I've done. That's all any of us can do. The room erupted in questions, reporters shouting, cameras flashing, but Jennifer had said what she needed to say, had made her stand, had fought back in the only way that mattered by being herself. The press conference lasted 2 hours. By the time it ended, Jennifer was exhausted, but also relieved. Felt like she'd finally taken control of her own story. Finally stopped reacting to Richard, and started acting on her own terms. As they left the venue, Victoria pulled Jennifer aside. You did good, really good. But Jennifer, this isn't over. Richard hasn't been arrested yet. He's out there somewhere, planning his response, figuring out how to counter our counter. You need to be careful, need to stay protected, need to. Victoria's phone rang. She answered it. Her face went pale. When? How? Are you sure? She hung up and looked at Jennifer with horror. Richard's gone, disappeared. His penthouse is empty. His assets are being moved. He's running. And Jennifer, before he left, he made a statement. Said you haven't won. Said this was all part of the plan. Said he's going to prove his theory one way or another. Said. Victoria's phone buzzed with a text. She looked at it and gasped. Showed Jennifer the screen. It was a message from Richard, sent to every major news outlet simultaneously, posted on every social media platform, seen by millions of people within seconds. Jennifer Hayes thinks she's won, thinks she's proven me wrong, but she's forgotten something important. The year isn't up yet. She still has 8 months left on our agreement. 8 months where I'll be watching, testing, pushing. And at the end of those 8 months, I'll reveal the final truth. That she didn't escape corruption, she just delayed it. That everyone breaks eventually. Everyone. See you in 8 months, Jennifer. Let's see if you're still standing by then. Let's see if your goodness survives. I'm betting it won't. R.M. Jennifer stared at the message, at Richard's promise to keep hunting her, at 8 more months of this nightmare, at the realization that winning today's battle didn't mean winning the war. But then Jennifer looked at her mother, at Victoria, at the team around her, at the foundation she'd built, at the students she'd helped, at the good she'd done despite everything Richard had thrown at her. And Jennifer made a decision. She wasn't going to live in fear for 8 months, wasn't going to let Richard haunt her, wasn't going to give him that power. Instead, she was going to live, going to run her foundation, going to help as many people as possible, going to prove every single day that goodness wasn't just poverty in disguise, that kindness was a choice, that money didn't have to corrupt, that Richard Montgomery was wrong. Let him watch, Jennifer said to Victoria. Let him test me, let him push, I'll be ready. And in 8 months, when he realizes he can't break me, when he sees that I'm still standing, still good, still fighting, he'll understand something he spent his whole life refusing to believe, that he's not representative of humanity. He's just one broken person. And one broken person's theory doesn't define the rest of us. Jennifer walked out of the hotel with her head held high, with her mother beside her, with allies surrounding her, with purpose driving her forward. The war with Richard Montgomery wasn't over, but Jennifer had survived the first campaign, had learned how to fight, had discovered reserves of strength and courage and determination she hadn't known she possessed. She had 8 months until Richard's final judgment, 8 months to prove herself, 8 months to help people, 8 months to show the world what real goodness looked like. And Jennifer was going to make every single day count. Because that waitress who'd served coffee 2 weeks ago was gone. In her place was someone stronger, braver, more capable, someone who'd been tested by fire and hadn't broken, someone who could face down a billionaire and survive. Jennifer Hayes, philanthropist, activist, fighter, survivor. And the story was far from over. This was just the beginning. The Hayes Foundation went on to help 3,000 students over the next 8 months. Ashley from the Bronx graduated at the top of her nursing class. Other scholarship recipients became doctors, teachers, engineers, entrepreneurs. They changed lives, changed communities, changed the world in small but meaningful ways. Richard Montgomery was arrested 3 weeks after disappearing, was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. His assets were seized, his reputation destroyed, his theory discredited. Victoria Sterling became the foundation's lead counsel, helped guide Jennifer through the complexities of nonprofit management, became a friend, a mentor, a true ally. James Montgomery and Catherine Pierce got married. Finally, 25 years after Richard had destroyed their first chance, built a quiet life together away from the spotlight. Agent Winters was promoted, continued investigating wealthy criminals, used Jennifer's case as a blueprint for how to take down seemingly untouchable people. Peter Walsh turned state's evidence, testified against Richard, got a reduced sentence, disappeared into witness protection. Angela Martinez served 2 years in prison for her role in Tyler Brooks's death, got out and dedicated her life to speaking about the dangers of being used by powerful people, became an activist in her own right. Linda Hayes's health improved dramatically with proper treatment, got to see her daughter's success, got to be proud, got to live without pain for the first time in years. And Jennifer kept her promise, kept fighting, kept helping, kept being good, even when it was hard, even when she was tired, even when cynicism seemed easier than optimism. At the end of the 8 months, Richard sent one final message from prison. Just 3 words: "You were right." Jennifer never responded, didn't need to, had already proven everything that needed proving, had already won in the way that mattered, not by destroying Richard, but by building something beautiful despite him. The Hayes Foundation still operates today, still helps students, still changes lives, still proves that given opportunity, people choose goodness. That money reveals character but doesn't determine it. That one person's kindness can ripple outward in ways that transform the world. Jennifer sometimes thinks about that morning in the diner. About the moment Richard walked in and changed her life forever. About the naive waitress she used to be. That version of Jennifer is gone. But what replaced her is better, stronger, more certain of what matters, more committed to helping others, more proof that goodness isn't just possible, it's powerful. And on hard days, when doubt creeps in, when Jennifer wonders if she's doing enough, if she's making a difference, if any of this matters, she thinks about Ashley. About the girl from the Bronx who became a nurse, who saves lives now because someone gave her a chance. She thinks about all the Ashleys, all the students who dreamed big but had no path forward, all the people who just needed an opportunity, an advocate, a believer. That's what Jennifer chose to be, an advocate, a believer, a person who looked at the world Richard Montgomery described cynical, corrupt, hopeless, and said, "No, it doesn't have to be that way. I'll prove it." And she did, every single day, one student at a time, one scholarship at a time, one act of kindness at a time. That's how you change the world. Not with grand gestures or billionaire theories or social experiments, but with consistent, persistent, relentless goodness, with showing up, with caring, with refusing to let darkness win. Jennifer Hayes learned that lesson the hard way, paid a price for that knowledge, but she doesn't regret it, would make the same choices again. Because she knows something Richard never understood. Being good isn't about being perfect. It's about trying. Even when you're scared, even when you're struggling, even when powerful people are trying to break you. You just keep trying, keep caring, keep choosing kindness. That's what Jennifer did. That's what she'll keep doing. For as long as she's able, for as long as students need help, for as long as goodness needs defending. Because in the end, that's what matters. Not money, not power, not proving theories, just people helping people, just kindness rippling outward. Just one person deciding that the world should be better and doing something about it. That's Jennifer's legacy, not as the billionaire's test subject, not as the waitress who got lucky, but as the woman who fought back, who survived, who won, who proved that goodness is real, that it's powerful, that it can't be corrupted if you refuse to let it be. That's the true story, the real ending, the truth Richard Montgomery spent his life trying to disprove but never could. Because Jennifer Hayes existed, still exists, still fights, still wins. Every single day.